Holy crap.
People persist in doubting the evidence.
Don't run and hide. Don't be afraid. Don't turn away any longer. The truth will set you free.
If the game is rigged, change the game.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Game changer, game changer, game changer, game changer. The Game Changer Radio Network.
Recruiting all of our artists towards Jimmy Church.
And now, your host, the captain of conspiracy, the prince of paranormal. This ain't your daddy's radio network show. This is Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
All right, let's do this, man. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. Today's Tuesday, March 24th. 83 days into the new year, 282 days left. We are live from the truthfunders.com studios right here in Burbank, California. Truth Funders, do you have a book, an expedition, invention, or paranormal documentary you need to get funded? Go to truthfunders.com. Truth Funders, the number one source of backing your project into the fringe. For KJCR and the Game Changer Network, KGRA The Planet, I am your oh so humble host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? Let's get this show cracking. That was the cracking intro from Spaceboy. Thank you, Spaceboy. Big, proud salute to the men and women in uniform all around the world fighting the good fight for us. For without them, there is no me, there is no you, there is no us, and you couldn't hear me right now. I really, really need you to think about it. How you doing? How you doing? I meant to get another mantra for this week. I have so many that I live by. I didn't do it yesterday. I feel kind of guilty. I think that's my new mantra. I didn't do it. I feel guilty. Let me type that. That's official. You can use it. You can use it. This is Fade to Black. Tonight, Dr. Lynne Kitei. That's right. Dr. Lynne Kitei will be with us, the Pheonix Lights, and more. Really excited to have her on with us again. Going to talk a little contact in the desert. Subscribe to the podcast, by the way. Thank you for your support there. $2 a month. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com. Click on podcasts. Got a couple hundred episodes there. It's all archived, and you get your little Android player, your Apple player, whatever app that you need. It's all there. I think it's Kindle too. There's a few of them. Just go to the Apple store. All the links are there. Go do it. $2 helps support the show. All right, faders.org. Don't forget, if you go to www.faders.org, first off, you can become a Fadernaut. It takes a little bit of work, but if you want to become a Fadernaut, and you should, just go to faders.org. The first thing that you're going to get is a message that says you need a code. Then you got to get that code. So then you got to come back over here, hang out with us on Twitter, follow us on Twitter, at JChurchRadio. It's what you got to do. It's a process. It's a whole deal that you got to do. But then you come back here, you hang out, jump on a soapbox, wave your arms, yell a little bit, and then one of the Fadernauts is going to come and find you. And then the process starts. Then you're going to get your code. Then you can go back to faders.org and you can get your shirts, your coffee mugs, all the cool stuff. It's all over there. There's a deal right now. If you enter the code NAUT15, N-A-U-T 15, N-A-U-T 15, that's all you got to do. NAUT 15, get 10% off. Free shipping. It's pretty cool. I think it's free shipping. I could be wrong. Well, when you enter the code, it'll tell you what you get. All right. Also, Studio Dome, the speaker. Studio Dome Bluetooth speaker, voice activated speaker. Studio Dome SD1. The link is also over at jimmychurchradio.com. And that promo code is Jimmy. Gets you $40 off, free shipping. $99.99. It goes down to $59.99. Free shipping. Free shipping inside the United States. If you live in Madagascar, you've got issues. So, there you go. All right. Also, I don't think we have it up yet. I should send verbal messages right now to the crew here. City of Angels Vapor and the Fade to Black, the new Fader Loops flavor is available. Just go to www.coavapor.com. I don't think we have the banner up on the front of the website. So Method is listening right now. So Method, get that banner up. Whoa. Send the banner to Method. We were supposed to do that right before the show today. We didn't do it. So maybe it'll be up before the end of the show today. We got a team here. We got a team. All right. Contact in the Desert. We announced another 4 winners last night. Actually, 5 won from last week. So now we officially have 20 winners. I want to drive this home. There's one thing I need to drive home to all of you. If you have won and you can't make it to Contact in the Desert, send us an email. Let us know that you can't make it. There are plenty of people out there that can make it somehow. And I understand if you can't make it, you enter the contest and you're working, you just bought a new house, you just had a baby. All of these things come into play. Your wife won't let you go. I understand that. Your husband won't let you go. I understand that unless they go. I get all of that. Okay. So just send us an email and let us know because we can use those passes and we will re-gift them. All right. It would be a really cool thing for you to do if you can't go. Just let us know. It's not that big of a deal. If you can't go, let us know. All right. Let's get this show cracking. Breaking news. Hangar 1, the premiere for Season 2, is going to be Friday, April 10th, 10 p.m. Eastern and Pacific, 10 p.m. But check this out. We got upgraded. We're moving from H2 to History Channel. Got upgraded. Got the email right before the show. And it said in the email, Jimmy, please help us get the word out. With this change, we now have the opportunity to reach millions more viewers. Check that out. Hangar 1, History Channel. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? All of you Fadernauts. We're doing all of this together. It is such an honor. So there you go. Set your DVRs. Friday, April 10th, 10 p.m. And it's on our night off. You got to love that, Fadernauts, don't you? Wouldn't it be a drag if it was Saturday night right in the middle of Fader Cinema? That would be that would just be a drag. It's Friday night. Going to have a nice party somewhere. Hey, whoa. Are we going to have a red carpet somewhere? Are you going to schedule this? Rita, are you going to schedule this? Are we going to have a big showing somewhere? What are we going to do? We need to plan something. We got to do something. All right. Maybe we can do it at Casa Day Church. Hey, that sounds good. You know how we do it over here, too. Trust me. All right. Friday, April 10th, Hangar 1. Let's get this show cracking. Today, actress Kelly LeBrock is 55 years old. Kelly LeBrock. Oh, yeah. I think she did one movie, and it was the one that counted. Weird Science. Kelly LeBrock, 55 years old. All of those ads, being a model and TV commercials. I forget that one TV commercial she did. It was for like a soap. Maybe it was shampoo. I can't remember. Something. Irish Spring. I can't remember. But she did all of it. I think she did one movie. I don't know. Did Kelly LeBrock do more than one movie? Somebody pop that in Twitter right now. I want to see it. By the way, you can follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. That's what you want to do. Hashtag F2B. I'm going to throw Les under the bus. Right before the show, Les is calls, and he's like, hey, so how do I set up TweetDeck? I'm like, dude, what? He's getting instructions for TweetDeck right before the show. All right, Kelly LeBrock, 55 years old, Weird Science. Louis Anderson is 62 years old. Now, you may know him. What does he do now? He hosts like Family Feud or something. But no. Louis Anderson made the cut because of his one line that he did in Coming to America. I think it was Coming to America. Yeah, it was Coming to America, the fry cook at McDowell's, when he said his line was, that's when I'll be fry manager. That's when you make the big bucks. Louis Anderson, 62 years old. Our dead guys' birthdays today are, got a bunch. Harry Houdini, 1874 to 1926, died at the age of 52. And as you remember, he told everybody, if there's a way to come back, I'm going to come back. And he didn't. Steve McQueen, 1930 to 1980, died at the age of 50. Known as the King of Cool, and he was, and he will always be the King of Cool. So many great movies, but The Great Escape, number one, and I got a tie here. The car chase in Bullet, quite possibly the greatest chase scene ever in the history of cinema, will never, ever be topped. And are all of you faders sitting down? All you Fader not sitting down? Remember our show the other night? Fader night last Thursday? Sat there and talked about cartoons and breakfast cereal all night. And then I have this today. Coinkydink, kind of weird. Today, Joseph Barbera. It's his birthday. 1911 to 2006. Lived for 95 years. Joseph Barbera, animator, director, cartoon, and storyboard artist who created, amongst others, Tom and Jerry, the Flintstones, the Jetsons, with his partner William Hanna-Barbera. He and Hanna were awarded 7 Academy Awards and 8 Emmy Awards. No joke. So I went and I just grabbed my favorites out of the probably hundreds of cartoons that they did. I mean, it's insane. But I just compiled a little list here. Little stirring of the memories. You ready? The Rough and Ready Show. Remember Rough and Ready? The Huckleberry Hound Show. Yogi Bear. Touche Turtle. Magilla Gorilla. Ricochet Rabbit. Johnny Quest. Adam Ant. Secret Squirrel. Space Ghost. Banana Splits. Wacky Races, Penelope Pitstop, Dastardly and Muttley in their flying machines, Scooby-Doo, Josie and the Pussycats, Speed Buggy, and Hong Kong Phooey. Those were my favorites. The list is so long. You look, and I don't know how they did it, but they did. Happy birthday, Joseph Barbera. And we wouldn't have had childhoods like we're talking about you today. Thank you, Joseph Barbera. Seriously, straight up. With that, let's get to our first break. Let's pay some bills around here. This is Fade to Black tonight. Dr. Lynne Kitei will be with us tomorrow night. Courtney Brown. It's going to be a great show tonight. Very fired up. You can email throughout the show, Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. You can go to the contact page over at jimmychurchradio.com, and you can use our specially encrypted non-NSA servers and do so in private if you want. But you got to make it good if you want those emails to come through to me. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'll be back right after this with the news that you know nothing about. Stay right there.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I gotta tell you, it was a relief. National tax experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. Doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil three-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. Or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses, Game Changer Network, KGRA, the planet, KJCR too. Can't leave that out. There you go. Tonight, Dr. Lynne Kitei. Now, this is what we're going to do tonight. Dr. Kitei can't be with us until the top of the hour. So I'm going to open up the phone lines after the news. How does that sound, faders? 323-825-5045. I'll take your calls for a half hour. Whatever you want to rap about, we'll keep it open. And there you go. One of the things that we may want to cover tonight is something that the doctor and I are going to talk about, our near-death experiences. Have you had a near-death experience? I probably have had a few. No, but have you had a near-death experience? If you have, I'd like to take your call tonight before the doctor comes on. 323-825-5045. All right. Shoot me an email, jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Any comments, any questions for the good doctor? You can also do that over in Twitter, hashtag F2BQ. That's F, the number 2, BQ. Fade to Black questions at J Church Radio. And get her done. Got anything that you would like to, anything directed straight at me or the doctor, I keep that column clean. Okay? So there you go. All right, let's go. Let's get the show cracking. The news that you know nothing about. Today, Germanwings Airbus A320. It crashed today in the Alps in southeastern France with about 150 people on board, obliterating the plane and sending shockwaves through at least 3 European nations, Germany, Spain, France. Flight 9525 took off just before 10 a.m. Tuesday from Barcelona for Dusseldorf, Germany, with 144 passengers on board, among them 2 babies, a couple of opera singers, too, as well, 6 crew members. Went down at 10:53 a.m., which is 5:53 a.m. Eastern here in the United States, in a remote area in the Alps. According to an online flight tracker, that records altitude, the plane was at 38,000 feet, and 8 minutes later had dropped to 11,400 feet. That's 27,000 feet. The plane's speed was at 551 miles an hour, but it reduced down to only 480. Yes, I saw the images today. The helicopters have taken pictures of the side of the mountain. Pieces all over the place, none bigger than a small car. Human remains and so forth. It is a very, very, very bad situation. What I don't understand is another plane crash that it just seems like we know nothing about. Just completely nosedive. And just like with 370, where we just don't know anything and it just turns on. This plane, just for no reason at all, did a 27,000-foot dive over 8 minutes at 480 miles an hour, piloted by a captain that had 6,000 hours of flying time. Worked for Lufthansa for 10 years. Crazy. Absolutely nuts. All right. With that, I'm just wondering what else there is to this. Our thoughts and prayers are out with all the families, but it just seems a little funny to me. According to the Wall Street Journal, soon after the U.S. and other major powers entered negotiations last year to curtail Iran's nuclear program, senior White House officials learned that Israel was spying on the closed-door talks. The spying operation was part of a broader campaign by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government to penetrate the negotiations and help build a case against the emerging terms of the deal. Current and former U.S. officials are now saying, in addition to eavesdropping, Israel acquired information from confidential U.S. briefings, informants, and diplomatic contacts in Europe. The espionage didn't upset the White House as much as Israel's sharing of inside information with U.S. lawmakers and others to drain support from a high-stakes deal intended to limit Iran's nuclear program, the officials are now saying today. It's crazy. The White House discovered the operation, in fact, when the U.S. intelligence agency spying on Israel intercepted communications among Israeli officials that carried details of the U.S. that they believed could have come only from access to confidential talks. Israeli officials denied spying directly on U.S. negotiators and said they received their information through other means. Yeah, right. Spy versus spy. Jupiter's large orbital journey across the early solar system may have cleared the way for the oddball arrangement of our planetary system, scientists now say, even to the point of destroying burgeoning young planets. Researchers at the California Institute of Technology created a model for the formation of Jupiter and Saturn dubbed Grand Tack, which shows Jupiter's migration towards the sun, the area of the inner solar system where planets like Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars exist until Saturn is formed. Saturn's formation caused Jupiter to reverse course and migrate outward to its current orbit. In other exoplanet systems, there is generally evidence of super-Earths that have formed, which are planets 10 times the mass of our Earth. These super-Earths are conspicuously absent in our solar system. So researchers think that they may have existed in the inner solar system before Jupiter's migration. They theorize that as Jupiter moved inward and then outward, its gravitational pull would have set off a series of collisions that smashed the newborn planets into pieces. Interesting. Scientists say that the resulting debris would have mostly spiraled into the sun and caused a second generation of inner planets to form with the depleted material. This could explain why Mercury, Venus, and Earth and Mars are much younger than our outer solar system planets with smaller and thinner atmospheres. Isn't that interesting? Now, this kind of report, with everything that we do here on Fade to Black, my Fadernauts, does a lot of explaining, doesn't it? Think about that. The X-Files is really returning to Fox for a 6-episode continuation of its original 9-season run. That's right, 6-episode continuation. Fox made the announcement today, and it also confirmed that Duchovny and Anderson will reprise their roles as Fox Mulder and Dana Scully, with creator Chris Carter also on board. The show will start production this summer, but the air date is still to be determined. Yay. That's all I can say. Yay. Saturday morning cartoons. Yay. You can help put names on Pluto. That's right. You too can help put names on Pluto maps that scientists will draw up after the first ever flyby of the dwarf planet this summer. That's right, we're going to start mapping Pluto, and if you want to name areas on the planet, you can do it. Researchers working on NASA's New Horizons mission, which will zoom through the Pluto system on July 14th, are asking the public to propose and vote on names for geological features that the probe will identify on Pluto and its largest moon, Charon. The SETI Institute is leading the Our Pluto naming campaign. That's right. All you got to do is go and name, and you can also vote at ourpluto.seti.org. ourpluto.seti.org through April 7th. New Horizons team members will then go through all of the results and submit a batch of recommendations to the International Astronomical Union, which assigns official names to celestial objects and their features. And isn't your brain stirring right now? ourpluto.seti.org. All right, Fadernauts, go get her done. This week, this is it. The Large Hadron Collider, the particle accelerator used to discover the Higgs boson in 2012 and confirm the existence of John Titor, will be fired back up after a 2-year break. The gigantic collider, which includes a 17-mile-long underground tunnel that runs between France and Switzerland, was shut down February 2013 because allegedly they found a black hole and they thought that they were going to disappear Earth. Wouldn't that be funny? Fire that thing up and Switzerland goes. Poof. Wouldn't that be? It's not that funny. Now physicists are starting it back up for a new series of experiments intended to push the laws of physics to their limits. It's going down this week. How'd you like to have your hand on that trigger? You be the guy. You be Walter with the red button. Twitch, the video game streaming site that Amazon bought for $970 million just last year. That's right. $1 billion last year has been hacked. Amazon admitted to it yesterday. In an official blog post, Twitch said that there had been unauthorized access to user account information. The platform where people can go and watch others play video games draws in more than 100 million unique users per month. For your protection, we have expired passwords and stream keys and have disconnected accounts from Twitter and YouTube, the company said. As a result, you will be prompted to create a new password and the next time you attempt to log into your Twitch account. Twitch also said that users should change their passwords on all other sites where they have used the same or similar password. Man, what a dire warning. Everything puckers up when you hear something like that. Twitch is the latest in a string of companies that have been hacked. I report on them all week long, week after week. You had Sony, you had eBay, you had JP Morgan. You had that insurance company up in Washington State. It's insane, man. It's a good thing we're friends with Anonymous. Anonymous, we love you. We love you, man. Do you have our back? We love you. We love you. With that, let me get to one more. Man, we're at the bottom of the hour already. This is what I'm going to leave you with. Are you ready? A Maine man, Maine as in the state of Maine, who'd been wanted by police for several weeks, made a couple of critical mistakes that led to his capture. He sent out social media messages pinpointing his location. That's right. The Somerset County Sheriff's Office had been looking for Christopher Wallace of Fairfield in connection with a burglary in January. Police told the Morning Sentinel that on Sunday night they received tips from people who said Wallace had posted on Snapchat and that he returned to his Fairfield home. So police went to the house. While they were searching with permission of the resident, they were tipped off that Wallace had posted a new Snapchat message saying police were in his house looking for him and that he was hiding in a cabinet. he was found in said cabinet. And that's it. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. That's all the news that you know nothing about. I'm going to take your calls right after this. We're opening up the phone lines. 323-825-5045. 323-825-5045. 323-825-5045. Got a half hour before Lynne Kitei. Let's open up the phone lines. Near-death experiences. Have you seen a UFO this week? Chemtrails, ghosts, everything. I'll be back right after this.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hi, this is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Today, everybody, the Fadernauts and planet Earth is vaping. And I'm very proud to announce our very own e-juice. When we were approached by City of Angels Vapor about Fade to Black e-juice, I wanted to make sure that it was the very best and that the flavors were something that I could create myself. And we did just that. Introducing Fade to Black Fader Loops. This will take you right back to Saturday morning cartoons and your favorite bowl of Fruity Loopy cereal. Just click on the banner or go to www.coavapor.com. Enter the promo code Jimmy for the Fader Not special. That's www.coavapor.com. Go back, Lee Tappy.
Imagine no longer being tied down to your computer, but having the freedom to take live talk radio with you anywhere you go. TalkStream Live introduces our first ever iPhone application. The talk shows you follow now follow you, and your iPhone is now the fastest and easiest way to stay connected to the best talk radio on the internet. Let TalkStream Live transform the way you listen to radio. Listen to live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mobile talk radio from TalkStream Live. Now available in the iTunes App Store.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. Yes. We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And I'm Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. And you're listening to Jimmy Church. The Revolution.
Attention, all Fadernauts. Studio Dome has a special deal on their SD1 Bluetooth speaker. Just go to JimmyChurchRadio.com, click on their banner, enter the promo code Jimmy, and you get $40 off and free shipping on the SD1. It's voice activated, comes with a USB antenna, cables, and a carry bag. Never listen to your phone, tablet, or laptop speakers ever again. It's the only way to listen to Fade to Black. That's JimmyChurchRadio.com. Studio Dome banner, promo code Jimmy. Go back, Lee Tappy. Yeah, Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses on the Game Changer Network. KGRA, the planet. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Dr. Lynne Kitei will be with us. Love saying that. Kitei. All right, let's go to the phones. Hi, you're
outside the phobia's view becomes much harder to discern pretty quickly.
Okay. Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. That is my bad.
Now there are apps that promise to make.
And a commercial playing. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
It's Tammy, of course.
Hey, Tammy, of course. How are you?
I'm doing really good. Hey, you want us to tell about life and death experiences, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you about the most recent. Well, no, I'm not. I'm going to tell you about the one before the most recent one. When I got shot. When I got shot, I literally died 6 times in the ambulance. I mean, code blue. My dad brought me back. Then I died once at the hospital. And they put me into a deep sleep. During that time, I didn't see anything. They brought me back and put me into the sleep. I woke up the next day to wish my dad a happy birthday. Then I went into a coma for 3 months. During that whole time, the only thing I can remember being in and out of a coma and talking to my baby brother that had died exactly a year before, being crushed by the log loader in the carrier. And he was showing me around, but he never let me through the gates. And I kept saying, John, I want to go through that. I want to go in. And he said, you can't go in. And I thought, uh-oh, what did I do? I'm going to the wrong place. But during that whole time, Jimmy, he kept visiting me while I was in a coma. And he visited me, and we talked about the last thing that we said to each other was not very nice. Somebody had stolen his truck and wrecked it, and my mom told him I'd give him the keys, and I didn't. It was my other brother. But it was really, really cool. For those of you that
hey, Tammy, I want you to finish the story in a second. I have a few questions for you, so let's back up.
Okay.
When you said you were talking to him, what did he look like?
I could barely see like a blur of his head, but what I really knew was his voice. He looked like all white in clothes. I could barely see his feet. And it made me happy because my brother was crushed by a log loader and its carrier. And to see him as a whole person again, I'm going to tear up. Right.
Well, but
claimed his body, Jimmy. It wasn't.
I exactly was. Well, I have questions. Was he? How old was he?
John was 24 years old when he was killed.
And when you saw him, how old was he? Well, I mean, was it a younger version of himself, or?
He looked so healthy. He looked like he was still 24 years old, but without all the pain, his body was whole. When I claimed his body, it was jello.
Right.
And to me, the one thing that most people don't realize is my little brother could have looked just like Patrick Swayze any day of the week.
Good-looking guy.
He was a handsome.
Yeah.
A very good-looking guy. I had to beat up so many of my friends that would not leave him alone.
Could he sing and dance like Patrick, too?
He was so shy, Jimmy. That's the amazing part. He was really, really shy.
Now,
girls would come up and ask him to dance, and he'd say, I don't know how to dance.
Yeah.
I had to teach him how to play football because he was clumsy. We put nails in the bottom of his feet.
Right.
And or in his shoes so that he could actually feel his feet to run. No, he couldn't dance.
Right.
But he was wonderful,
Now, why? Man, I have 100 questions. Why did he say no?
Because I had more things to do here. I still don't know what they are.
Right. Well,
He showed me my dogs. He showed me my cats. He showed me my horses. He showed me pets from the past that were all waiting for me. But he said, "It's not your time."
How did he show them to you, Tammy?
It's just walking around. It was like more. How do I explain this? Holograph.
Wow.
That's how to explain it.
What was the... I have a million questions, so I'm just going to ask you. Okay, rapid fire. You ready?
Ready.
Okay. The ground, what was that like? Was it misty?
Marshmallows or a waterbed.
Really? And what color was it? So it was fun to walk.
A blue, like a blue-green, like bluegrass.
Like bluegrass, like soft, marshmallowy bluegrass. Well, that sounds nice.
You could walk on it. Really, really. I don't know if heaven is the same for everybody, Jimmy. I really don't. But everything I ever wanted was there. Do you understand?
Yeah, I do. I want to go.
Well, not too soon.
Well, you know what I mean. Yeah, you don't have fear. I don't have fear.
I don't have fear.
Yeah.
I don't. I believe, I should be dead right now. A lot of people don't realize I'm walking around with shrapnel in my brain, a full My full lower right side of my brain is absolutely gone. The bullet took off my right ear. I have a fake jaw in place. Totally deaf on the right side. The doctor said, sew her up, she's going to die. And he pissed me off saying that. You know, I was mad. And I'm the type of person, you don't tell me no, especially if I don't want to go that way. So, you know, it's, when they put me under the last time, when I woke up to wish my dad a happy birthday, I really was in tears. The most I was awake was long enough to say, Dad, what day is today? And he said, October 28th. And I said, it's your birthday, and I'm really sorry I ruined it. I love you. And he said, honey, the best thing that happened was you talking to me. Because I got shot the day before his birthday. That's why I was even down there.
Right.
And I told him, I said, I'm going to go back to sleep now and talk more with John. And my dad goes, what? You know, he was like, really? And I mean, they put me in a sleep. The other time I woke up was when a nurse almost put in a air bubble into my vein. I literally grabbed her arm before she could do anything and yelled for my dad, and he came in and he looked at the needle, and the head doctor, a good friend of mine, looked at the needle and went, there's an air bubble, this could kill her. You know, literally, I shouldn't be here. The neglect that the nurse staff there, I am so glad we have nurses like Nancy Nurse around that actually do have a heart and not after the money.
Right. Were you? Were you able to see other people too?
My great grandma came hobbling down. My uncle John Conrad, General John Conrad. You guys talk about him once in a while on the radio. Was there. They were kind of busy doing their thing. I had a vision. I fell off a ladder in 2010 when the ladder broke on me, and I went out again. And like I said, I think heaven is for everybody. When I got to see my dad and my brother, again, they told me it wasn't my time to go, that I had too much to do here. I wish I knew what it was. They were actually gold panning. You know.
Interesting. How long did this last for?
You know, Jimmy, when I woke up, I didn't even know I'd been out for 3 months. I really didn't.
Okay, but the actual the death side of it, when everything happened at first, I mean, were you actually clinically dead, I guess is the question.
Clinically dead 6 times in the ambulance, and my dad kept bringing me back by talking in my ear, rubbing my hand, and then he actually popped me in the chest twice, which made the ambulance people just totally panic. And my dad was a Green Beret, but I don't know how he knew what to do. I really don't. He brought me back twice, and then they give me a shot that brought me back the other 3 times. The one time I was actually dead for 3 minutes. And in the hospital, I don't know if you call it a dream or the talking to my brother continued, talking to other people there continued, but I was never allowed in to where they would go. You know, it was like you have to go back now. And I remember feeling like I was being swallowed back. Just everything started closing in, and you know the end of Bugs Bunny, where the big circle goes down?
Yep.
Okay, like that, except it was like a picture closing. And then I woke up and it was like, where the hell am I? You know, I don't want to be here.
What happened? Take me. I want to know about. This is me. I want for me when it first happens, there must be the sensational part at the very beginning where it all starts. You know, in the very beginning. What
for me, I I could hear him saying, she's code blue, she's code blue, she's code blue. And then the next thing I know, I'm like in a white area, and my brother comes walking up, and he looks, he goes, you're not supposed to be here. And I said, I can't tell you what I said on the radio. And the last word was you, but it started with an S.
Right.
And John says, no, hon. He says, you got to go back. You can't stay. And I said, well, I'm not going back. I don't think. I said, I didn't bring myself here. And he says, well, let me show you around and we'll talk. He says, we have a lot to do together. And we'd gotten into a huge fight. There was a lot of things that happened between me and him that was neither one of our faults. We were being pitted against each other by my stepmother.
Sure.
And we worked that out. Oh, I was so mad when I got back at her. I still am. I'll never forgive her for that. But he started telling me that everything is there, everything you could ever want, dream. And I told him the last time I seen him, and he apologized for that. He said it was my time to go. He told us all he was going to pass away on his when he was 24, and he did, since we were little. But everything I could see there, Jimmy, it was like a foggy haze. It was not crystal clear, holographs of people, but you couldn't exactly see through them, but you couldn't exactly see that they were meat and bones. You know what I mean?
Sure. Well, and you're in a spot that you're completely unfamiliar with, so...
No, that's the point. You didn't feel like you were unfamiliar with it.
So you were comfortable. You were comfortable with the trying to make sense.
I never felt better in my life.
Trying to make
never felt better in my life, Jimmy.
Well,
never.
So you didn't try to make sense out of anything. You were just comfortable from the word go.
I knew I was where I thought I was actually in heaven, and that I was going to stay there. And it was like, wow,
What about angels? Did you see any angels?
I actually have a picture I'm going to try and bring to Contact in the Desert of one I took, but I can't say that I did. The thing that blew me away was making amends with my little brother.
Wow.
And getting the truth out between us.
Wow.
And that was, you play the song, He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother, and it makes me cry every time.
Yeah.
I bottled that kid.
Well, now that I know that, I'm going to play it all the time. Now that because if it reminds you of them, we sang
that song together at a school thing. He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother, and we carried out my niece, my oldest niece, and kind of played it for school in a military school.
Yeah, that song has an effect on me too. And when I was recording it, that song almost didn't get done. And the reason why it almost didn't get done, the first time I had this vision of it in my mind. And I played it for Rita, and, she's my best critic, right? She's my best critic. So I played it for her, and she was like, this isn't good enough. I was like, what do you mean it's not good enough? Well, what do you mean? And I could hear it in my head, but she couldn't hear. She only heard what I had done. It almost didn't get done. But when she said that to me, it just, it angered me, and I went back and I perfected it and got it right to the way.
You are now going to probably get me and Rita fighting. I'm sorry, Rita. I love you to pieces, you know that. But I can feel every heartfelt note Jimmy plays in that.
It's no, she loves the song now, and that loves our version of it. But but anyway, this is the thing. That song is so emotional that when I was recording it and putting it down, it was hard to record because you know what it's about, you know the words, and I'm it took me probably a solid week to get it right because I played the drums, I played the bass, I did played all the parts on it, and engineered it and stuff. So it took a while to get done, and it was mentally taxing because the song is so beautiful, but it has so much meaning to it. And it was tough to get through, Tammy. So I'm glad that you appreciate it.
The first time he played it, I waited till Mark went to his room, and then I went back and just kept replaying.
Ah, cool.
Just had a cry fest. I really, really did. And I'm like, and the best part of it is you don't have to hear the words. You know what that song's about. The other song me, John, and Larry did together for the military school talent show was Cats in the Cradle.
Yeah, that's another one. That's a tough one. And another one, what's it by Harry Nilsson, Taxi Driver? What's it called? But that one too. Yeah, all three songs are heavy. They're heavy. And yeah, I say this all the time, Tammy. It's songs like that affect us emotionally come from an emotional place to begin with. You have to have love and lost, whether it's a family member, a wife, a girlfriend, a dog, that's those songs for somebody to, we have to appreciate all of those songwriters that actually will put their emotions down on paper. And then, and there's nothing worse than, why is it that, you break up with somebody and you're driving down the road and every song on the radio is a song about getting dumped, right? And it's just...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's what it is. People get their emotions down, and they're able to write the words out and get the music done. But I said it the other day, James Taylor, man, Carly Simon wrecked him, right?
Well, look at what I just found out. Joe Walsh dated one of my favorite singers in the world, and she wrote a song about him, and I'm like going, oh my gosh, on an interview today. It just totally blew me away, but I'm proud of him. He's one of my favorite people. Just to see where he's been, how much he went through, tormenting himself, ruining his body, and then coming back as the person he is today. Just an amazing, just like Chase Koleski, amazing people you could learn a lot from, and they're there to show you, I've been through this.
Right.
If I can go through this, you can come back, and it's just... I can't wait to meet Rita at Contact in the Desert. Of course, everybody else. And you. Don't get me wrong. It's just, I just feel a tight bond with your wife. It's very hard to find honest people, and I believe that is what we have in the Fader Knots, and I'm staying there. I don't care what Les says. He can kick me off all he wants. I'm coming back.
Yeah, Contact in the Desert is going to be great. I'm really looking forward to it. And, wow, thank you for sharing all of that. I haven't had a near-death experience. I haven't. The only time, the first time that I had kidney stones, this is going to make you laugh, I get Rita on the phone, and I tell her I think I'm having a heart attack, right? And I didn't know what was wrong with me. I was going through all that pain, and I passed out. And when... I was passed out, and the fire department shows up with Rita. They kick down the door, and they come in. I don't know what's going on, but all I know is when they put me in the ambulance, and, and I'm just like out of my mind. And they put me in the ambulance, and I turned to the two paramedics that were up there, and they're driving. They turn on the siren, and I go, "Am I gonna die?" And the guy turns around to me. He turns around, and I mean, I'm serious. I was in that kind of pain. And
a lot of people
he turns around and he goes, "Dude, I think you've got kidney stones." And I just put my head down and fell asleep. That was it. I didn't wake up for hours.
A lot of people think the hardest thing was to get back to me. That's what the name of my book's going to be. And yes, you still get a free copy. But the hardest thing was leaving the place that I was when I died.
Well,
I'm not kidding.
Well,
that was hard.
And now know. Now you know. And
if you'd known me before, Jimmy, I've told everybody, you wouldn't have liked me. I was a sassy, snotty little...
Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah.
I had a big slap myself. I'm serious. But it taught me so much about life and so much about who I really was, and just woke me up, and that you can't learn it any other way. I couldn't. I mean, I'd had four different accidents, drowning when I was 3 years old.
Well, what did you think about those movies that came out last year, the two movies about going to heaven with the kids? I forget.
I don't watch TV.
No, they were in the theaters. Did you see either one of those? There is a God or there is a heaven. Did you see that?
Oh, there definitely is a heaven and there definitely is a God. But there's also, I believe in God. I do not. And hear me on that, I do not believe in organized religion. Mark and I have been living together for 15 years. We've been very good friends for longer. We go to a garage sale, and all these Christian ninnies are like, your husband is looking at this. He's not my husband. And they kept doing that. Your husband, your husband, your husband. Finally, I said, hey, people, he's my shack-up. And to me, you should have seen their faces, but who's actually the rude one in that part? They don't believe that a man and a woman can live together. I have a 3-bedroom home. There's 2 people living here. Automatically, they think that a man and a woman... When I was going to college, I was 16 years old. I graduated high school at 14. I had 5 male roommates. I wonder what they would have thought of me then.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's. I don't believe in organized religion, and I'm sorry if I insult anybody, but it's too hard. It's just like anything else that's organized. Beliefs are pushed on you that. Do you really have a chance?
Right.
Or a choice?
Right. Oh man! Thank you for the phone call. Thank you for sharing. And
I'll share more with you. I really will. I'm just excited because there's a couple of questions I don't want to ask you and Rita on air, but I'll ask you at VIP.
There you go. Thank you so much, Tammy.
All righty.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Fade to black. When I come back after the break, we'll be joined by Dr. Lynne Kitei. This is Fade to Black. I'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Alternative Talk, KGRA.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. May arrives soon, and with it comes another Contact in the Desert. So join me in Joshua Tree, California, for the 3rd annual Contact in the Desert Conference being held May 29th through the 31st. 2015 brings another awesome lineup of speakers, including publisher of Legendary Times, Giorgio Tsoukalos, New York Times bestselling author David Wilcock, journalist and conspiracy expert Jim Mars, former head of UFO Project for the MOD Nick Pope, investigative reporter Linda Moulton Howe, author and contactee Travis Walton, UFO historian Richard Dolan, and many more. You don't want to miss this. Fade to Black and KGRA will be there broadcasting live May 29th. Just visit contactinthedesert.com for tickets and information. That's contactinthedesert.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Did you ever turn to your radio for your favorite talk show to find that it's been preempted for this?
In the air to deep right center. Back goes Lewis to the wall, and it's all here!
Or this?
And I'm ashamed of you, Hillary, for voting for it.
Do you have a favorite talk radio program that's not available in your city? Just go to TalkStreamLive.com for links to the best streaming talk radio shows. At TalkStream Live, you will find live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All your favorites are here. With such a large selection, you will also discover some new favorites. On the go and still want to listen? With the mobile smartphone, simply type TalkStream Live on your internet browser. Now you can take internet radio with you. You will also find hundreds of music, news, and sports streams. Best of all, the TalkStream Live directory is free and there's never a login required. Remember TalkStreamLive.com, the fastest route between you and your favorite talk radio show.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. I'm your also humble host, Jimmy Church. Welcome back, everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Tonight is a very special night. We have Dr. Lynne Kitei back with us. Lynne D. Kitei, M.D., is an internationally acclaimed physician and award-winning health educator with a distinguished career spanning over 40 years. She was the chief clinical consultant of the Imaging Prevention Wellness Center at the renowned Arizona Heart Institute in Pheonix before pushing her successful medical career aside to pursue the source and meaning of the historic Arizona mass sighting event of March 13th, 1997, which has become known across the globe as the Pheonix Lights. Dr. Lynne's internationally award-winning Pheonix Lights documentary and best-selling book, The Pheonix Lights, A Skeptic's Discovery That We Are Not Alone, are the definitive works concerning the most important mass UFO sighting in modern history. I would like to welcome back to the program our good friend, Dr. Lynne Kitei. Lynne, how are you tonight?
I am just wonderful, and thanks so much for having me. I heard your little ad a few minutes ago about the contact in the desert. I'm excited to be a part of that as well. In fact, I'll be speaking on Friday the 29th and doing a workshop, and I'll get into more of that, but it's going to be an incredible weekend. It was last year, and I look forward to seeing you there, and lots of people listening as well.
What time are you speaking Friday night? We're broadcasting, again, you did this to us last year too, if you remember. We're broadcasting 7 to 10 p.m.
I'll be there. No. I'll be there because I'm going to be speaking in the morning from 9 to 10:30, and then the afternoon doing a workshop, really getting into the nitty-gritty of how the mass sighting affected the people in real time and long term. That is so fascinating in and of itself, and we can talk about that tonight if you'd like.
Oh, we are. We have so much to talk about, too. You were so funny before the show. Jimmy, we got so much to talk about.
Well, we do. You know why, Jimmy? Because there is so much mis and disinformation out there. One of the main reasons I came forward after 7 years of anonymity was really to set the record straight, because from day one, and I'm going to be actually speaking about that at my presentation at the Contact in the Desert, how the media unfolded, how the story unfolded through the media is fascinating. I don't believe in coincidence anymore, because it just so happened I had no interest or knowledge in this topic at all. And both my husband and I, he's a physician as well, had a very close sighting to our home 2 years before the mass sighting. I got 35 millimeter pictures, didn't know even who to show them to, and wondered for 2 years what this advanced technology was right outside our bedroom window. We live pretty high mountainside in Paradise Valley, Arizona. We overlook the valley, and we have a panoramic view of the city skyline, so we know what helicopters and street lights and car lights and so forth look like. And, just real briefly, I mean, these were orbs. These were objects that were in a pyramid formation about 50, 75 feet off the desert ground, very treacherous incline, less than 100 yards from our home. And, they were real, and they were there. And I saw them. Not only did I take real close note, because as you mentioned, some of my background is video and workbook curriculums for kids on vital health issues. So immediately I thought, I've got to get my video camera. But I didn't want to miss anything. And you'll hear that again. I'm sure you've heard that, Jimmy, from people who have extraordinary experiences. They don't want to move. They're in awe. And certainly we heard it from thousands of people connected with the mass sighting in 97. But tried to take everything in mentally, the size, the shape, the color. They were about 3 to 6 feet each. They were oval shaped, like an egg on its side. They were in a pyramid array, one on top and two closely aligned underneath. And I call them an orb because the light did not extend outside the edge. It was self-contained, and it was a beautiful, mesmerizing, uniform amber color throughout. And it's interesting that worldwide people see these phenomena and use the word amber for some reason, not yellow, not orange, they're amber. But anyway, I thought if I don't get a picture of this, no one's going to believe it. And as I go running to the closet to grab a 35 millimeter that I had handy for the beautiful sunsets we have here, my husband calls me back. He says, "Get over here quick. One of them is disappearing." And I'm sharing this with you because I'm the audience, because I always go back to this close sighting because I saw it right in front of my face. And the top orb, without budging, started to implode. I guess like a dimmer switch. It's so hard to describe it, but mechanically, as if there was an intelligence behind it, started to get smaller and smaller very slowly, just imploding mechanically until it was a dot, until it was gone. And we didn't see it anymore with our eyes, but I have to admit that it felt like it was still there. Where did it go? Okay. Got out on the balcony, got a quick picture of the two lower orbs. And for anyone that's near a computer, if you want to go on the Pheonix Lights Network website, Google Pheonix Lights, it's usually first, or the pheonixlights.net, and go to the photo page. You'll see some topography, which I'll get to in a second, but you'll also see the first picture that I took were the two bottom orbs. And I have to admit, Jimmy, when I got out there, first of all, there was an eerie silence, as if time had stopped. It was just bizarre. And didn't share this with anyone until after the mass sighting 2 years later. But as I was intently glaring at these two bottom orbs, it felt like something was watching me. And going through my mind, I was thinking, who are you? What are you? Do you know that I'm here? I'd love to meet you. And the next thing I remember, the left bottom orb started to implode like the top one had. And I quickly shot a picture of that. And that was the only one that turned out at the time. But for me, it was amazing because not only did it confirm that something unusual did happen and it was close, but I actually caught one of them half disappeared and one still there. And that picture is also posted on the photo page. At any rate, again, I didn't know who to show it to. 2 years passed, didn't see anything remotely connected with anything that looked anything like this until 2 months before the mass sighting. This is really significant data that, in good conscience, I couldn't stick in a drawer, and ultimately after 7 years. But I actually saw orbs at a distance, information again, the second night of which I caught the same phenomena, mile-wide phenomena of equidistant lights in a row, head-on, turning into a V, that I would also catch during the mass sighting on video. And I have to admit, it was so unnerving not having an explanation for what was outside our window 2 years before, and it was certainly advanced technology of some sort that I didn't know existed here on Earth, that I called around, found air traffic controllers at Sky Harbor International Airport who saw the same thing at the same time. And they were excited that I actually saw it too, and admitted to me, they were very forthcoming initially, that it didn't show up on radar, that lights had appeared over Class B restricted airspace. This is really important because there's a 30-mile radius around the center of the airport that anybody that goes into that airspace, particularly at 1,000 feet altitude as these were, must call into the tower, and no one did. So they looked on radar, didn't show up on radar. They got their very high-powered binoculars to look. And what they described were 6 points of light, totally equidistant from each other, massive span over a mile wide, that seemed to be attached to something. But they couldn't quite see what it was attached to. And one of them was a meteorologist and said that it actually turned as a unit against the wind and then elevated slowly and then moved behind South Mountain in synchrony. So I said, so what was it? And one of them says, beats me. This is the air traffic controller. This is, I said, like, you're professional sky watchers, and they ruled out everything, Jimmy. They ruled out every possibility from not only flares, of course, but from blimps and from conventional aircraft and even skydivers with lights. I mean, they ruled everything out. Go ahead.
And one thing I want to point out to the listeners that haven't been to Pheonix is that Sky Harbor, the airport, is right in the Pheonix is one city in between these mountains, like this little valley, and the airport lies right in the middle of the city. So if these guys are, it's not 20 miles outside of the city like so many different airports are around the country. Right. Sky Harbor sits right downtown, right there, man. It's it's a great airport to get to too because it's you're always close by.
Right. Well, another interesting point, Jimmy, you bring up a really good point, is that just south of the airport, I had mentioned that this phenomenon went behind South Mountain. Is South Mountain a few miles back? There's another mountain range called the Estrella Mountain Range. And what was interesting, and this is another little coincidence, 6 months before the mass sighting, this is so intriguing, I was invited to present my substance abuse prevention education program. I produced video and workbook curriculums on vital health issues like AIDS and teen pregnancy and substance abuse for schools worldwide. Discovery Education distributes them as we speak. And I was invited to the one school that they have. Their sacred ground, the Gila Bend Indian Reservation, is in between South Mountain and the Estrella Mountain Range. And again, if you go on the photo page on the PhoenixLights.net website, you'll see the topography. There's one little area right behind the airport, actually, where South Mountain and the Estrellas intersect. So after the mass sighting, this was 6 months before the mass sighting that I presented there, and after the mass sighting, I noticed, and it's, I always say the data speaks for itself. It's in the pictures, and they're 35 millimeter. It's in the negatives. These phenomena seem to be popping up right in that area, so I called them up. And I said, did anybody happen to see strange lights on March 13th? And they started to giggle. And I said, is that funny? And they said, are you kidding? We've been looking up at them for centuries. We call them sky beings, light beings, sky people, which is really interesting because I had no clue about that either. And here, when I really started looking into that aspect, which is very intriguing, indigenous groups worldwide not only accept the fact that there are other intelligences out there, but Native Americans, particularly the Hopi and others, have protocols to actually invite these phenomena in. Some believe that they're ancestors that are coming to give them comfort and motivation and inspiration. And I have to say, the bottom line is I've certainly been inspired to do what I'm doing for whatever reason. But I found that really intriguing, and the Estrellas actually got its name because these phenomena have been happening for centuries. And there's petroglyphs right on the mountains there in South Mountain and the Estrellas that are somebody found exactly like what my husband and I saw, these triangle formations of three lights. I mean, it's so fascinating, and they also believe that there's a gateway or portal in that area, gateway to the stars, the Estrella Mountains. So that's intriguing in and of itself, and we can get into that more if you'd like later. But, getting to the mass sighting, if people don't know about it, weeks passed, and I kept seeing these lights in formation, and I kept in contact with the air traffic controllers, by the way. And for me, and this is how close I was, okay, because I knew nothing about the topic, didn't know anyone connected to even show the picture from 95. A friend of a friend, because I actually got to the point where it was getting ridiculous. I had to find out what these things were, and I started showing the video, which does not do it justice. Anybody that sees the video, they're much smaller, they flicker, they're white, but nonetheless, the informations are very compelling. 35 millimeter is the best way to analyze them, by the way. But I started showing the video to my friends, and finally, a friend of a friend had a neighbor who had a friend who knew the past president of MUFON, Mutual UFO Network. So I called him up. I said, I've been seeing these lights for weeks. He had not heard of it, but there were other people, actually, that were also seeing them and photographing them for weeks before. And I said, I have a picture from 95 that I know is authentic, but I'd love someone of credence to take a look at it. And he refers me to a MUFON field investigator for the following Wednesday. He calls me up Tuesday to postpone because the then state director's mom had passed on Saturday. The funeral was Wednesday. The only window of opportunity I had was Friday morning at 10 o'clock. He said, fine. Well, unbeknownst to me, Thursday night, I see the same thing that I had been seeing for weeks and actually captured video of the 3 endpoints, the same exact phenomena in the same exact location as 2 months before. And I knock on his door, and he opens the door, and I have video in hand. And he says to me, did you see the mass sighting last night? And I said, excuse me? I saw something similar to 2 months ago. He says, no. Hundreds, if not thousands of people were looking up skyward for a glimpse of the Hale-Bopp comet, which was very clear in the northwest sky, when they also got a glimpse of a 1 to 2 mile wide, either of these orbs, like the air traffic controllers mentioned, that seemed to be attached to something or had a force field holding them in rock solid equidistant array, or craft. And that's the other thing. I have to tell you, Jimmy, there is so much mis and disinformation out there. Whoever's listening, if you heard that there was 1 or 2 events, and, we'll get to the flare thing, there were many, many events, okay? And we're talking for many hours, not just 1 or 2 hours. Certainly the bulk of people calling into Luke Air Force Base who denied that anybody called there, but a lot of people got the number from the National UFO Reporting Center from calling Luke, as well as, really. No, it's amazing when you really, look at the facts. And Pheonix police said they didn't get any calls, and we actually have a 911 police operator who retired a couple years ago, and she, came to me after a presentation and said, I heard they said they only got a few calls. Well, I was there that night, and they got hundreds of calls, and she's fabulous. She's in the documentary. But anyway, that night, thousands of people were watching as these 1 to 2 mile wide craft, starting at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Okay, we have daylight sightings here in Arizona. 5:30, there's reports by Native Americans in New Mexico. 7 o'clock hour, people were seeing the same phenomenon in California, and there was actually a plane that was leaving from Phoenix to California, and about 11 o'clock, they were over Vegas, and one of these craft covered Vegas, and there were 8 or 9 different craft, okay? There's a 12-year compilation from the National UFO Reporting Center, thousands of reports, to the National UFO Reporting Center in Seattle, to Village Labs, which is the clearinghouse here, a computer lab, as well as Councilwoman Frances Barwood. She was vice mayor at the time, and she was the only elected official that innocently in May asked for an investigation, and she got plastered by the media.
I felt so bad for her. I did. I felt so bad. She was concerned. You could see it on her face every single day. And I just felt so bad. She stuck her neck out.
No, absolutely. She got thousands, 1,000 calls, and she called back most everybody. In fact, I finally felt brave enough once she did ask for, an investigation, to call her and tell her that I had, additional information. I mean, that was crucial to the investigation for her to even know that. But also Arizona MUFON, they got many, many reports, and there was a 12-year compilation by Michael Tanner, who is no longer with us, unfortunately, and Bill Hamilton, and they found if 2 or more people saw the same craft, that they put it into the study. And here there are 8 or 9 different craft that people saw, okay, mile-wide craft. Now, whether it was one craft that could morph into looking different, or the perspective from where the person was standing.
Right.
or a parade. And I have to say, Jimmy, that's what the investigators, after 12 years of studying this data, finally concluded that there was a parade throughout the state, because if you really look at the data, there were many things happening at the same time. And I mentioned the Vegas. They saw one of these craft cover Vegas, and they actually called the radar to see if they were getting anything. And another pilot, commercial pilot, and we're talking big commercial airline, called in because it was right near him, and he was like all frantic. And then suddenly there was a very authoritative voice that came on, and this was about 11:30 at night. Came on the speaker and kind of freaked out the pilots and said, what are you seeing? And give me the details. And so they kind of backed off and said, well, we don't see it anymore. It kind of freaked them out that there was some strange voice on the radar and speaker. And then as they're approaching California, about in the 11 o'clock hour, all of a sudden they were at 30,000 feet. All of a sudden, very close to them, like less than a mile, they see a giant flare, out of nowhere. And suddenly, moments later, a military jet on the other side going in the opposite direction goes past them, like whizzes past them with afterburners on. In fact, the pilot said she jumped out of her seat. I have the whole detailed in my book. But at any rate, it freaked the pilots out. I mean, they felt that somebody was trying to shut them up or freak them out, which they did. But at any rate, there was also a call at 3 a.m. the next morning from an alleged crewman, and very detailed and recorded, and that's in our documentary as well, recorded the details to the National UFO Reporting Center, Peter Davenport, that about 8:30, one of these craft was hovering right in the center of Pheonix, 7th Avenue and Indian School, and 2 military jets were sent out to intercept or get gun camera film, which I heard that they did get. And as they approached, the lights started to dim. And as they got a little closer, less than a mile away, the whole thing just disappeared. And the crewman said that he was one of the people to help one of the pilots out of his craft because he was so shaken up by it, and that Luke was on lockdown after that. So they knew that something was going on. Now, this continued. Now, the bulk of reports, as I mentioned earlier, came between 8 and 10 o'clock. That's why people kind of focus on that, because most people were outside then, and people were playing golf, people were playing baseball, whatever, and going to the mall. Lots of kids saw it, and we'll talk about their reaction in a few minutes. But at any rate, but the sightings continued all night. Until 5:30 next morning. Wait, listen to this. 5:30 next morning, there was a crew from Boeing, a Boeing crew that came into work, and one of the crafts was hovering right over their tarmac. So this was happening for many, many hours, and many, many things were happening at the same time at different locations.
So, yeah, that was my question. So Vegas and California, everything was Thursday, March 13th, and going into the wee hours of the morning of the 14th.
Right. Right. But let's not forget that this was happening weeks before. In fact, Steve Blonder, who was seeing them as well and documenting them on film as well, and in a whole other area of the city, called MUFON up to his balcony the night of March 13th because he was so intrigued by these and wanted to know what they were, these strange lights, informations, that they happened to be there at that moment when an arrowhead of 5 lights, and again, all you have to do is look at the data. It speaks for itself. Those lights are either attached to something, or, they're rock solid information, or there's a force field in between. And he got amazing footage. But this is how ironic it was, because here I walk in with video in hand the very next morning, and just by chance, because I had postponed the meeting from Wednesday to Friday. And, the MUFON investigator said, did you see the mass sighting last night? And I told him I saw something similar to 2 months before. And he said, no, thousands of people saw this, and NBC was coming to interview him in a half an hour. Well, I used to do health reporting. I started in NBC in Philadelphia with Jessica Savage, if you remember the name.
Yeah.
And a syndication grew from that. When we moved here in 1980, the syndication was already showing at CBS here, and then I started doing health tips in the early 80s at NBC here. So as soon as he said that, I said, whoa, I said, I'm out of here. I said, I don't know what we're dealing with, if it's a hoax or military or whatever. But you know what? It's not about me, and it's never been about me, Jimmy. It's about the data. And I said, said, you know what, take a copy of the video. I'd love people to see what we saw. I don't know what it is, but, take it and show it to whoever. And I'm out of here. And I left by 4:30 that next day. And that was the day after the mass sighting. The first news that came on, my video was plastered on every news station. It was exciting.
Well, I told you what happened to me. I was in Phoenix that week. I had just gotten home that Friday night. I come into my apartment, my condo here in Sherman Oaks. I come in, I put my luggage down, and, it's, I don't know, maybe 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, and I turn on my TV, and the news is on. And it's right there. It's on the news. And I'm like, what? When was this? And I'm listening. Last night in Phoenix, a UFO. and I'm watching. And I was in Phoenix Monday through Friday.
Wow.
And I don't know how I missed it. The entire city saw it. But me and the people that I were with, we were not in a position. We were, either inside at a restaurant or inside a studio, what have you. But the most exciting thing that could have ever happened in my lifetime was going on right outside, and I missed it. And
well, you were here. You must have felt the energy.
I can't relay enough how upset I was.
A lot of people were that didn't see it. They still, the people that did, though, that was really significant too, because, it's something that was so profound and so amazing. And we're talking, throughout the state and beyond. And, when you talk about, real time and long term, how it affected people, which I'm going to get into in my workshop with the Contact in the Desert. Kids were usually the first ones to see it, and we're so inundated in the media with threat, and harm, that, Dr. Gary Schwartz, who's the head of the consciousness department, conscious study department at the University of Arizona, made a very poignant statement in the documentary by saying that, if you're fearful of something, how do you think you're going to react when you see it? So, kids, it's because Independence Day movie was very popular 6 months before the mass sighting. And when they were seeing this mile-wide V come towards them, they were jumping up and down, Independence Day. But as it got closer, a calmness came over everyone, adults as well as children, a connectedness to the phenomena. So amazing. In real time, it changed people in real time. And as it passed over, and we're talking very low altitude, some people said they could have thrown a rock at it. It was rooftop level and totally silent. That's the other thing I have to tell you. But after it passed, the kids wanted to run after it. I mean, it was amazing in real time. And also the technology. That's another thing. It's 18 years, Jimmy, 18 years since that happened. We haven't seen anything even close to this technology, because not only was it 1 mile to 2 mile wide, and very credible reports that extended on both sides of the highway as people were coming up the highway to Phoenix from Tucson. But it was totally silent. Some people saw it take off at blink speed. Some people saw it disappear, like what happened in the middle of Phoenix when the military approached it. Other people saw these orbs detach from the main object, go out into the environment, and then redock with it. I mean, we're talking incredible technology. We haven't seen anything that comes close to that, have we?
No. And what about before 1995, before your first Phoenix Lights, I want to use a word there, a sighting incident, what have you, experience? Anything, what was your life like before that? Were you just, if there is such a thing, a normal doctor? Were you just...
I was so busy. I have to tell you, between my health reporting, and I had a company, Health Education Learning Programs, Help Incorporated, to produce these video and workbook curriculums on vital health issues, and bringing up 2 sons to be productive, caring adults, which they are. And, I was pretty busy. I had no interest or knowledge of this topic at all, just stayed away from it. It really didn't appeal to me. But I have to tell you, once you see something, and people know that are listening out there, most anomalies, I have to say this, most anomalies can be explained. Only a small percentage cannot. But just because we don't have the technology yet to definitively define what these things are, it doesn't mean they're not real. We may just be looking on the AM dial for an FM frequency. And people ask me all the time, well, what were they? You know what? I don't know. To this day, I have no idea what they were. All I know is that they were, and they are. And it's time we get this topic out in the open. We address it, we accept it, and we study it so we can move forward and not only find out who's driving these things, but move forward in our own evolution. You know, we're right on the precipice now of going to the next step to realize that we're not alone in the universe. I mean, if you just look at the whole picture now, we've come a long way, by the way, in 10 years since I came forward in 2004. The accepted and the official, except for the witnesses, of course, explanation of the Pheonix lights was that they were merely military illumination flares. And I'll get to how that transpired, because that's a really interesting story in and of itself. And now, worldwide, and it's not only my work, but certainly credible people coming forward, and we'll talk about that too, that have really gotten the information out there, and social media as well, that now people worldwide, you go on YouTube and you put in Pheonix lights, there's people all over the world that look up to the sky and see similar phenomena, these orbs information, or the mile wide or triangle craft, and they point and say, whoa, there's the Pheonix lights. Well, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. It's the raising of awareness and getting this out there, and certainly social media has helped, has been amazing. But getting back to how the story unfolded, which is really interesting in and of itself, because after the initial hoopla, there was nothing. There was no investigation. There was no explanation. In fact, people went to the military. I did. I called the military. I mean, they were just as curious as we were. There was nothing. And it wasn't until June 18th, 1997, a front page USA Today article came out for the first time. And there was no social media then either. The internet was really in its infancy. But overnight, I'm talking overnight, it was on every news station. Peter Jennings, Dan Rather, and I'm going to be showing some of the things. I kept track of everything because my video was in it.
Right,
so
right.
I was there at my VHS, machine, getting everything I could. So some of this stuff nobody's seen, except the people that saw it initially. But at any rate, it's fascinating what happened, because after nothing, later that morning, the very next day, June 19th, former Governor Fife Symington announces that he's calling an unscheduled press conference that afternoon to reveal the culprit of the lights over Pheonix, okay? And people took it really seriously. And there was media there were witnesses there, and he comes marching out, one of his aides, with a giant alien head costume. Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah, we all have, yeah.
Yeah, and made a mockery of the whole thing. And I have to say that I even had one of the people that was guarding him, and came up to me last year. We have an event which was sold out again this year, every year, showing the documentary, and we have speakers. We just had Travis Walton and Arizona Rangers, who are amazing. They're law enforcement that are actually taking this seriously and investigating these phenomena in the Navajo Nation. But at any rate, it's amazing how we've come full circle, and we just had the event. Going back to this what happened with the governor,
yes.
is that a month later. And I called the military again, and they weren't given any information, and they didn't know. They really denied some of the conversations in my book. I get a call from the head of PR at the Air National Guard. Now, this was July 24th. And she says, because I have to tell you, we were inundated, by the way, by media from all over the world. And once they started talking to the witnesses, their stories were so detailed and so heartfelt that they, too, were pushing for an investigation. I said, why isn't there an investigation? Why isn't there an explanation? Anyway, I get a call from the head of PR at Air National Guard, and she says, Dr. Lynne, I think we know what those lights were back in March. And I was really thrilled, because I was looking for any logical explanation. And I said, you do? And she says, do you believe in all these months? And we're talking from March to end of July.
Yeah, 5 months.
That nobody ever looked at the log for visiting Air National Guard, and the Maryland Air National Guard was sending off flares in Operation Snowbird, which I later found out meant in military terms, diversionary tactical maneuvers, okay?
Right.
And it's been a diversion ever since, whether they did it or not, because we don't have one person that has described flares, okay? And she says, that must be what some people saw. That's exactly what she said. And I said, well, wait a minute. When were they in town? When was the Maryland Air National Guard in town? She says, March 1st to the 15th. I said, were they in town in January? She says, oh, no. I said, are you sure? She said, absolutely not. I said, well, I have photographs, 35-millimeter photographs of the same exact phenomena in the same exact location as March 13th, confirmed the next morning by air traffic controllers in January and the morning after the mass sighting as hovering over Class B restricted airspace at 1,000 feet altitude. And she says, you never told me that. And then I said, besides, you're trying to tell me, and I try to educate myself on anything logical, including flares, you're trying to tell me that military illumination flares that drift and drop with the wind on parachutes have huge smoke trails that are illuminated by the flare itself and are supposed to illuminate the area around it, which nobody described, traverse the entire state in a rock-solid, equidistantly spaced V formation for hours. And she says, I have a call coming in. I'll get back to you. I'm still waiting. But anyway.
18 years later.
Well, wait a minute. So then, that whole thing kind of put a lid on things. I had to come up with, I tried to figure out why did they come up with this, because it was just so ridiculous. I mean, there obviously weren't flares. People were seeing craft right above their heads. People were looking into these giant wells of spinning energy and just unbelievable descriptions. But at any rate, but still being a healthy skeptic, open to any logical explanation if I see it. In the meantime, 3 years later, we're talking 2000, former Vice Mayor, Councilwoman Frances Barwood, bless her soul, announces that she's going to run for Secretary of State on a platform to get answers about the Pheonix lights and asking quite publicly for a reenactment. Okay? And, hey, if it's the military now, mind you, I had 35-millimeter pictures, not only video of the night of March 13th, but 35-millimeter pictures 2 months before the same phenomena. And when you go back, which we did a year after the mass sighting, to the 95 pictures, which if we have time, we can get into the analysis that Dr. Maybe optical physicist Dr. Bruce Maccabee did in 99.
Sure.
But, which is very poignant in and of itself. But if you look at those pictures on the photo page on the PhoenixLights.net website, the same exact phenomena is in the background in the same spot there too, disappearing as we were watching the close orbs. So anyway, I knew that I had pictures that showed the same, whoever did this did it multiple times. Do it again. If it's military, okay, I'm open. Well, they finally announced on March the 7th, 2000, that 3 Air National Guards, and this was really public. I mean, they did it on the radio, on TV, in the paper, that 3 Air National Guards, I believe it was New York, Michigan, and California, they must have been practicing for months, were going to show everybody the Pheonix lights. Now, whether they thought that it would just confuse the issue again or put it to rest, I don't know. But let me tell you something. The only thing that they could debunk, by the way, when it came down to it, they could blow off people's stories, but there were a handful of videos that could not be explained. I mean, they're pretty impressive. If you look at my video, the 3 endpoints of a V or triangle, the arrowhead that were taken before 10 o'clock, and there were 2 boomerangs after 10 o'clock. One is really impressive. Mike Christen's is really impressive. The other one is a little haphazard, could have been flares, okay? They may have sent flares off, whatever. But at any rate, it's like, fine, if you can do it again and show us what we originally saw, hey, okay. Well, I have to tell you, if you go on the news page on the Pheonix Lights Network website and go down to the middle, there's a block that has it's a CNN affiliate, AZ Family 3. They did a wonderful report showing the footage that was taken during that supposed reenactment. It was a joke. I mean, they tried to make a triangle was upside down. It fell apart immediately. They did what flares do. I mean, they flickered out. One of them flickered out almost instantaneously, and they drifted. I mean, it it really confirmed for the witnesses once and for all that it wasn't flares. Definitely wasn't flares. And to this day, I have to tell you, they've never addressed the aircraft that people saw. They never addressed the triangle and V-shaped craft. And it's never been reenacted.
Yeah, even if I give the government and the skeptics the benefit of the doubt, right? And I jump on the devil's advocate side. Even if I give them that, a flare leaves a long, illuminated trail of smoke. So even if for some reason they had the new special NSA smokeless flares, even if that's what they were, then how are you going to get those to line up? But even if I give them that, let's just say that the famous video, that one over the mountain, if that was flares, let's give them that. But that doesn't explain everything else. It doesn't explain California. It doesn't explain Las Vegas.
And the craft that people saw, and people saw lights too, Jimmy.
Yeah,
people saw lights in a V shape traverse the entire state. Flares can't do that.
All the way to Tucson.
Well, and beyond. Some say that it went all the way to Mexico, actually, and then back. But we're talking amazing technology, and they had their shot. I mean, they were supposedly reenacting the Pheonix flights, and it's never been reenacted to this day or explained. And what was really interesting too is that right after the 10th anniversary, actually right before the 10th anniversary, I have to say this because you said it in a line. It was interesting that because we see flares from our home, mountainside home, periodically, and you can tell in a heartbeat that they're flares. Okay, even the new ones, but because they're quite different. They're much smaller and they flicker, and they're just not these orbs, these giant balls.
Right.
But at any rate, right before the 10th anniversary, suddenly there was a line of flares. And again, I could tell immediately. I mean, to a trained eye, you could see that they're haphazard within seconds, and through the viewfinder of my camera, you could see the smoke trails. The next morning, I was inundated with calls from the media. That's a whole other thing, which I'll share in a second. But, Dr. Lynne, did you see the sighting list? That we're getting so many calls. I said, don't get so excited. I said they were flares. Okay, now why they sent off a line all of a sudden right before the anniversary?
Right.
I mean, come on. Okay. But I said, here is a perfect time, a perfect opportunity to teach the public, because a lot of people saw it. I mean, they intended for a lot of people to see it, I'm sure. But now's the perfect time to train and show the people and educate the people on what the difference is between flares and the true unknowns. And wouldn't you know, they did reports. It was fabulous. It was really fabulous. And right after the 10th anniversary, suddenly we get an announcement that former Governor Fife Symington, who had mocked the sighting in '97, bravely came forward to say that he actually saw it, and that it was otherworldly. You saw one of the craft. And
didn't he see it with his son?
Yeah, I believe he was outside with his son.
Right.
But, it's the main point is that it really was a big step forward, I have to say, because for an elected official to admit that he saw something that was unearthly or otherworldly, as he called it, really took it to the next level. And many more people came forward. They come forward to this day. It's amazing how many emails, and I welcome people. That's another reason I came forward, is to, as a physician, as a scientist, and as an educator, certainly, I felt obliged to share the data and let people decide for themselves, ultimately after 7 years of anonymity and a lot of soul searching, I must add, because I did not want to come forward. But as a physician and as an experiencer, it's so important for people to know they're not alone, even though most anomalies can be explained. When somebody has an anomalous experience, it's real to them. And if you don't share it, it festers. It's not healthy. And one of the things I always say, and I have, if you get on the website, there's contact at the top. I have a Pheonix Lights Network page on Facebook if people want to message me there. Just sharing it with one person is cathartic. It's healing. It's really important to get it out in the open. And I think that's ultimately what Symington just needed to do after, he had pulled that in '97. So the more credible people to come forward, the more credibility the whole thing has. And I have to say, it's just amazing. Over 10,000 people, I'm sure, because I've heard from thousands of people myself, saw this, and it affected people at a very, very deep level, if you want me to get into that, because it's still affecting people.
I think it's so important. It's something that you and I have talked about a lot, too, off of the air, but I think it's so important for people to, discuss what they have seen. And I'm a victim of that myself. I didn't talk about things for 10 years. I kept things inside. And how important is it for people to come forward and speak, whether it's to you or to anybody for the first time, and talk about your experiences? And how many people contact you and the email starts off, I've never told anybody this story, but I need to talk to somebody. How many times has that happened to you?
I have close to 30,000 emails just on my one email of people that have shared, not even counting people that have, messaged me on Facebook. And I mean, every day, there isn't a day that passes. I'm not kidding. That somebody either sees something on TV or they finally just have to, tell somebody, and they haven't told anybody and they're afraid. And that's the other thing. That's why I said it's so important to get this out in the open, because enough. I mean, whatever it is. And again, I don't know what it is, but there's something definitely going on. There's something gracing our skies. And the most interesting part of this, Jimmy, is that they have been for centuries. And native cultures know this. Since human documentation began, there's documentation of these phenomena, even in prehistoric caves. We have long extinct animals etched out on the stone, and in the sky is what we would call today a UFO. How did they know that? Unless they had seen something. And what about Sumerian writings and India writings, and even in the Bible, Ezekiel's wheel, and so forth, that, in their own language were describing UFOs. And then you fast forward to, the 15th and 16th centuries. You have the frescoes and paintings with people on the ground, and we show a number of them in the documentary. It's so interesting to see these paintings because they have these objects. They look like UFOs with actual people or beings in the UFOs that people on the ground are looking at and staring at. Well, another interesting thing I have to tell you is in 1897. Almost 100 years to the month. I mean, this is in March and April. This was seen in Kansas, California, Washington, and Canada. They described, and it's in a Kansas paper, they described an airship, a giant airship with removable lights. Does that sound familiar? Okay.
Right.
That not only sounded very similar, okay, to what we were seeing, but also it was 6 years before the Wright brothers took flight, okay? And people were seeing these things. Now, not only that, but in World War II, and we just had, again, our sold-out, big event for the 18th anniversary at the Scottsdale Harkin Shea Theater. It was amazing. And one of the speakers was a 93-year young World War II French pilot who saw the same phenomena around his plane during the war. And they called them Foo Fighters, these amber orbs that were around his plane. And it's very interesting. In our documentary DVD, in the bonus features, he describes not only what he saw, but also what happened to him when he tried to report it, which wasn't pretty, okay? He was threatened with his career, as are many pilots. United States pilots that see things. That's a whole other story that certainly has been studied by Dr. Richard Haynes at NARCAP. Thousands of pilot reports that really don't get out there because they're threatened with their careers. So it's really important we get this out in the open on so many different levels, I have to say.
Before we catch our first break here, we're about 5-8 minutes away from that. Tell us about Free and what you're doing with Free.
Oh, well, that's really interesting. That's a good segue because Ray Hernandez and actually astronaut Edgar Mitchell, who was in the documentary, he's wonderful. He was being conferred with in real time. I didn't know that until I interviewed him during the mass sighting, by the way. And he's amazing in the documentary and talks about the cover-up in the bonus features as well. And he started not only IONS, the Institute of Noetic Science, combining science and spirituality, but now he is one of the founders of FREE, which is actually a group that is studying the experiencer, really focusing on the experiencer themselves. And I can talk about that when we come back from the break, because I found an interesting connection between all unexplained phenomena in my quest to find out what was going on. But they're finding that too, that these experiencers, whether it was a pleasant experience or not, we don't have a reference for these experiences. Even Travis Walton, he also spoke at our event, and he's going to be at the Contact in the Desert, spoke about the fact that when he was taken, onto the ship and, he was knocked out by a beam of light, that, when he woke up, he was freaked out. I mean, of course, this was 40 years ago, by the way. We don't have a reference for these things, and we're told that we're crazy or that it's a mirage or whatever. And, he was frightened, and certainly he couldn't breathe, and that, would cause more panic. But on reflection, and this happens with experiencers as well, that seek help and that actually ruminate. And Dr. John Mack certainly was one of the leading psychiatrists at Harvard that was studying these phenomena and studying experiencers, also confirmed with talking about it and with being able to relate to other people that have had the same experience, you really come full circle. And many of these people not only have relationships with these other beings or these other entities, but it really gets into more of a benevolent situation. And the same with Travis. I mean, he believes now that he was taken aboard the ship to save his life, that they actually helped save his life. And, so that's a very interesting aspect, and also the connection between all unexplained phenomena, which I'll get into after the break. But FREE is actually studying these experiencers, and you should look it up on the net. And they're going to be a presence as well at the Contact in the Desert, and I am a board advisor, and we'll be interviewing people as well. And it's, again, as you said, it's really important to share.
Do you consider yourself an experiencer?
Absolutely. If I wasn't, I wouldn't be doing this.
Well,
I have to tell you. I mean, look, when I had the close experience, and we can get into that after the break too, if you like, with what Dr. Bruce Maccabee concluded after he studied meticulously my photographic data, which still I can't wrap my head around, but I shared for the first time in the latest edition of my book, because I think that it might be important. I don't believe in coincidence anymore. Getting all the data out there, people can decide for themselves, and hopefully science will come on board and actually study it. But as far as being an experiencer, something happened that night that not only woke me up to the reality, and it's waking people up worldwide, not only to the presence of otherworldly beings and that something's going on, something's visiting us, but also waking us up to who we are, and I'll get into that more. But look, the Hubble and the Kepler telescopes have changed the face of time and space, and we now know that NASA just came out with an announcement this year that there were at least 500 billion other galaxies out there, and I'm sure there's probably more than that. And if you consider that with the billions of other galaxies, with billions, trillions of stars and their own planets, and the building blocks of life are out there. We know that hydrogen, nitrogen, amino acids are out there. And that life is viable everywhere. We have life growing in the hot springs of Yellowstone to the frozen Arctic lakes. And just a couple years ago, actually, I did I went on Fox with Megyn Kelly and astronaut Tom Jones, because the next day NASA was announcing a big announcement about alien life. And I figured, what's the big announcement? I bet it's about some kind of a microbe that they found. And lo and behold, of course it was. I even mentioned on the show, on the report that, asteroids come here, and it's been studied by astrophysicists, that asteroids come here with, microbes on those asteroids. Well, there could be a whole nother family tree out there of microbes, and lo and behold, they found microbes that were living in an arsenic lake. So, when you see that life is really viable everywhere, and our one galaxy, our one Milky Way galaxy, is 14 to 16 billion years old. Our solar system is a very young solar system. It's only 4 to 6 billion years old. So there are scientists now postulating that there could be sentient, intelligent entities out there, billions of years ahead of us.
There's no doubt about that. And one of the things that I think about all the time is when you look at us and you look at our intelligence here and what we do and look to the stars, and we've been doing that for millennia, always asking that one question, are we alone? Are we alone? I wonder what's out there. I wonder what's out there. Well, you know what? That's what they're doing. They're looking right back at us, asking the same questions. Are we alone? And if they're a million years, 10,000 years, a million years, a billion years older than us and all of that intelligence, then they know we're here because we're doing the exact same thing, aren't we, Lynn? We're sending out probes. We're investigating. We have Kepler, and that's all we do is wonder. And we're going to find out. But that just means that they've already found out. That's exactly what it means. You can't think that they are the opposite of us and they don't want to know. No, of course they want to know if there's life out there in the universe. And they already know that we're here. That's it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no other way to look at it.
And not only that, Jimmy, but maybe they've been here.
Well,
maybe we just don't see them. They're in another frequency, in another dimension. We're not only talking, interstellar time traveler, possibly, but when you really look at the native cultures and their beliefs and their, and we'll talk about that more after the break. But when you're talking an interdimensional possibility, that even makes it more realistic.
Did you listen to the show before you came on?
I didn't. I was actually at a meeting.
we had a caller, Tammy, came in and talked about her near-death experience that she had.
Mm-hmm.
And we can also talk about that after the break too, as well. And I wish you had heard her call because pretty fascinating. Her description of what happened to her, and we'll talk about that after the break. But I've never had a near-death experience. I haven't had that experience. But that is also, if there's the one question, are we alone in the universe? And the other one is, what happens when we die? That's the other question. And we've got enough of testimony and experiencers of near-death to describe what happens on the other side and what happens at that point. And I would like to talk about that after the break, too.
Sounds great. Got a lot to contribute to that one.
Dr. Lynne Kitei. All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll be back right after this. Tonight, Dr. Lynne Kitei. Tomorrow night, Courtney Brown will be with us. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. I am your oh-so-humble host, Jimmy Church. More with Dr. Lynne Kitei when we come back right after this short break. Stay with us.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
Are you a paranormal investigator, ghost hunter, or UFO skywatcher? If so, FNGinnovations.com has the product you definitely need in your investigations kit or go bag. Introducing the Morpholite Wide Beam Tactical Flashlights that put the light where you need it most. Traditional flashlights shine a focused round beam with limited line of sight in the dark. Morpholite Tactical Flashlights change all that, utilizing a revolutionary wide beam design to enable you to see safety hazards such as hanging wires and steel, pipes, and holes in the floor you just can't see with a focused round beam. In the field, where safety is paramount, a 180-degree beam increases orientation and peripheral vision in the dark. Morpholite flashlights are ideal for investigations in abandoned facilities such as houses and hospitals, factories, caves, and tunnels. Avoid those low-hanging tree branches that poke your eyes in the woods. Visit FNGinnovations.com to see a full line of tactical lights and accessories. That's FNGinnovations.com.
Now you can find all your favorite talk radio shows live, all in one place at TalkStreamLive.com. Listen from anywhere, office, home, or in your car. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com and click on one of the many live talk show hosts you want to listen to. It's free and easy. No computer? Download the smartphone apps. Never miss your favorite talk show. Find them all at TalkStreamLive.com.
Hi, Ray Hobbs here with KGRA. Spring is just around the corner here in Northwest Arkansas, and that means it's almost time for the 28th Annual Ozark Mountain UFO Conference, continuing a time-honored tradition of bringing thought-provoking information about other worlds around us. Join me and the KGRA crew April 10th through the 12th in beautiful Eureka Springs, Arkansas, for another great lineup of speakers, including investigative journalist Linda Moulton Howe, the National UFO Reporting Center's Peter Davenport, returning to Ozark as this year's keynote speaker, author and American historian Richard Dolan, and many more. The KGRA will be there broadcasting live all weekend. Register and reserve your seating early and pick up a free membership from the KGRA and Ozark Mountain Publishing. Visit www.ozarkufoconference.com for tickets and information. That's ozarkufoconference.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Fade to Black. Bespoke Radio for the masses. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Dr. Lynne Kitei is with us. Tomorrow night, Courtney Brown, PhD. Dr. Lynne, are you still with us?
Oh, I'm right here. Waiting for you. Yeah, we're going to get into some good stuff now.
Yeah, near-death experiences. You, well, we alluded to this before the break. You had one when you were 8?
Well, you know, it was really interesting. Right before the mass sighting, like around December before, I had some surgery, and I figured I'm going to be laid up for a couple of weeks, and took out a whole bunch of books, which I never had time to read. You asked me if I was interested in this stuff. I never had time. So I figured, let me go to the library, and I just started pulling books off the shelf from near-death experience and Edgar Cayce and holistic medicine. And the first book I picked up was by Melvin Morris, MD, and Paul Perry, who's a best-selling author on near-death experience. Called, it was a study for children's near-death experience. I figured that would be, very credible. And as I'm reading it, one kid comes to a barrier, and I thought, wait a minute, that happened to me. And another kid has a short life review, and I thought, oh my goodness, that happened to me. And another kid sees these beings of light. And I thought, oh, my goodness, what I had over 40 years before must have been a near-death experience. I never put it in that framework. I certainly didn't learn anything in medical school about near-death experience. And I just kept picking up book after book, Transformed by the Light, and also by Melvin Morris. And it just so happened that I looked in the back of the book, and Paul Perry, who was his co-writer, lived in Scottsdale. So I contacted him, and I said, I really need to know if what I had was a near-death experience. meanwhile, weeks and weeks passed, and the mass sighting happens. Actually, the mass sighting didn't happen yet. Excuse me. I met with Paul finally the Tuesday before that Thursday, and I didn't say one word about the lights that I was seeing, but I have some pictures that are pretty amazing that I want to be sharing at the Contact in the Desert that actually does confirm life after death. In fact, Paul Davids, who did the original movie Roswell on TV, did a movie this past year called Life After Death Project with the most credible hard evidence of afterlife, and I shared for the first time the picture that actually my older son took that shows my mom came through loud and clear. You can see her in the picture 10 years after she passed, which really convinced me, by the way, that this was real and all that. But at any rate, we talked for hours because there's nothing in medical school, and I figured, the medical community could certainly use some knowledge about near-death experience, and he left, and then the mass sighting happened, and then the following week, I called him to thank him for meeting with me for 5 hours, and he confirmed for me that my near-death experience was just that. And I said, by the way, did you hear about this mass sighting last week? And he said, sure. I said, well, did you see the video of the 3 endpoints of the V? And he said, yeah, of course. I said, because on every news channel, like for days. And I said, well, that was my video. And he freaked out. He actually ended up writing the foreword to my book and followed the story throughout while it was unfolding. But the reason that I bring that up is that while I was interviewing witnesses for the Pheonix lights, after the mass sighting, a number of them mentioned to me that they also had near-death experiences that were reawakened, childhood near-death experiences that were reawakened by the mass sighting. And I thought, whoa, I mean, how coincidental is that? And could there possibly be a connection between all unexplained phenomena? And as soon as I started looking, again, I started finding such credible data. The Omega Project, which is like a 4-inch book written by Dr. Kenneth Ring at the University of Connecticut. I'm university studies here. Also, Dr. Bruce Grayson, who is a near-death experience expert, and Raymond Fowler, who did the Andreessen case, all were finding not only the fact that whether it was near-death experience, out-of-body experience, or unexplained aerial phenomena experience with a mystical light associated with the experience itself was very similar. And I lay it out very simply in the book, but what was most profound for me was the after effect. I mentioned the effect in real time earlier with people connecting to these phenomena and even having telepathic messages from it and a calmness taking over them. The positive after effect, the awakening, the enlightenment that happens within an individual who has an unexplained phenomena experience, whatever it is so profound and life-changing. I began calling unexplained phenomena UP and unexplained phenomena an up, because it is an up. It is so positive. I mean, we're talking connectedness for the first time that one feels to the universe, to the earth, and to each other at such a deep, profound level that it changes you forever. I mean, this is over and over again. I hear it over and over again from people, again, who are sharing their sighting for the very first time, that when you have an experience like this, and by the way, you don't have to have an up to experience to have this positive transformation. All you need to do is open your mind and your heart and learn about it. And suddenly you're going to start realizing not only things that you never noticed before, but when your eyes are open, when you take that veil away and that little box that we have been told we should be in, suddenly there are serendipities that just blow you away. I mean, I promise you, anybody that's listening, if you really open your heart and mind and start learning about near-death experience and start learning about these other unexplained phenomena and be open to things, it's amazing the wonders that are out there. And, science tells us that we only use part of our brain. Well, what's happened with the rest of it? Okay. We are capable of so much more, and healing, too.
Well,
we are capable of healing.
How are they connected?
How are they connected?
Yes.
Not only by the experience themselves. There's people, and there's a whole rundown, and I'm going to go into this in my workshop at the Contact in the Desert. But there's a whole list of things when people will feel that they're out of their body, that suddenly time has stopped, like I felt when I went out on the balcony. That you're in a timeless realm. That suddenly that you feel that not only that there may be beings around you and seeing beings or loved ones. Many people come back from near-death experience describing grandparents and great-grandparents that they never met, but they'll describe them, and then a parent will show them a picture that they've never seen before, or they'll describe them and it's exactly what they look like. But not only that, there is really a rote thing that people see not only in near-death experience, out-of-body experience, and unexplained phenomena that are very, very similar. Many people see beings in white robes. And when we talk about the Watchers in history, in ancient writings around the world, there were these Watchers. I myself, when I had my near-death experience, it was in '56, okay, and they were using ether, and I remember distinctly a mask being put over my face in a dentist's office, and suddenly, I was going around in a revolving glass door, and suddenly it came to a barrier, and I knew if I went past that barrier that I would be dead. And you have to realize, we had really very little religion in our house, if any, and I was very sheltered and really didn't know anything about any of this stuff, and yet when I knew that I would be dead, and my mom, who doted on me, and I was in professional musical theater and all that by the time I was 6. I had a short life review and knew that if I died, she would be devastated, and I was in a panic that I couldn't die. And suddenly, I shot up above the earth, very peacefully, just floating in the clouds. And by the way, I didn't share this with Assault till I came out with the first edition of my book in 2004.
Sure.
I laid it all out there because I know lots of other people have had experiences like this, and it's as real as I'm talking to you now, okay? And anyway, I'm floating above the clouds, and suddenly I noticed 3 giant, now I was a little kid, so maybe they were only 10 feet, but to me they were giant beings with white robes, with hoods over their heads. And I tried to see their faces. I bent over to see their faces, and the hoods were over their faces, so I did not see the faces. But I felt an incredible feeling of unconditional love. They knew who I was. And they looked like they were looking towards Earth. And I turned my head, and it was as if I had a telescope that could just take a beeline to Earth, and I could see people doing things. I could see children, drawing the chalk hopscotch on the sidewalk and jumping over, and the milkman delivering milk at the door, which I used to do in '56. And I saw a man putting out a sign to herald the opening of the store. And the thing that was like the most poignant was that I knew what was going to come next. I knew what was going to come next. And I thought, wait a minute. Does that mean, again, we're talking a very naive child to come up with this, does that mean that what comes before us is destined, that we have no control over what comes before us? And then a thought popped in my head, well, wait a minute. We might not have control over what comes before us, but we do have control over what we do with that situation. If we take advantage of that opportunity, if we treat that person nice or not, we have the choice to do that. And I thought, well, wait a minute. If these beings are giving us a stimulus and watching for our reaction, aren't human beings, but an experiment. And with that very thought, I hear a magnanimous male voice say, it's not your time, it's not your time. There's a reason you have to go back. There's a reason you have to go back. And suddenly I was in my body. Something happened, okay? I remember distinctly the nurse and the doctor kept asking if I was okay. They had my legs up in the air. They never said a word to my parents about anything. But again, as real as I'm talking to you, it was so vivid. It was real. And for weeks after, I didn't talk to a soul. I went to a park that was near our house and kept looking up to see if I could see those beings. But I have to admit, and I admitted in my book, that I have felt that they have been with me since, and they have been my guides, and I have trusted in the guidance. And actually, it's brought me here to you because at one point, after the mass sighting happened, and again, people have asked me, do you think there's 3 orbs outside your window? Because, by the way, it was the night before my birthday when they appeared in February of 95. Are they connected in some way to these beings? I don't know. I just put the data out there. But I
want to jump in really quick. This is just the way my brain works. When you saw, the hoods were draped over their faces, could you see part of their face, like maybe their chin? No, I did not. I could not see their faces, but they knew me, and there was unconditional love. There was so much love. It was like ecstasy love. And I have to tell you that after that happened, I thought that they were spirit world. I have to tell you. But now, after the Pheonix lights happened, I don't know what they were. Well, did they have?
But I know that they've been with me. I know I have trusted in the guidance, and it's always taken me to a good place, and including this. Because at one point, it was like, I kept asking my friends, why do I have this data? I don't want to do this. This is too controversial. I don't know anything about this. And, they would say to me, Lynn, this is what you've been doing for 40 years, 30 years at the time. This is what you do. If anybody can do something credible and professional with this, you can. But I resisted. And at one point, and I talk about it in the book, I just surrendered. I said, hey, if I'm supposed to do something credible and professional with this, show me the way and give me a sign. And I won't tell you, I won't ruin it for the reader, but they gave me a very heavy sign that really jolted my being and gave me a message that set me on the journey that brought me here. But
Did you think what you saw were angels?
I don't know. I know that they were glowing white robes, and they were beautiful, and I've trusted in the guidance. I'll tell you a little story. Okay, I mentioned that. You want to hear a little story?
I always do when it comes to you.
One of the times of many that I have trusted in the guidance, and I don't hear voices or anything. I just get really inspired, or I feel strongly about doing something or whatever, and it just always takes me to a good place. I was in professional musical theater, as I mentioned. I toured with Gordon McRae in Oklahoma and Betty Grable and Guys and Dolls. Singing is my forte, by the way. I have a 3-octave singing voice, which if it was my choice, that's what I would be doing, but whatever. And I understudied Barbara Reed and, I Dream of Jeannie and Sound of Music, and did Alice in Wonderland on Broadway with Sherman Hemsley, Mr. Jefferson, before he was a big star. And I did the movie Raising Arizona, right?
That's all you and I have talked about that, yeah.
Right, which was really ironic. I'll just, as a little aside, which I didn't even realize. This was done in 87. It came out 10 years before the mass sighting. And someone came up to me a couple years ago and said, there's a reference to your character, Florence, Arizona. I played the mother of the quintuplets, and anybody that doesn't know the story, it's a cult favorite, Coen Brothers hit movie about the Arizona couple who cannot have children, and they use fertilization, and she has quintuplets, and then it's a black comedy. Holly Hunter and Nicolas Cage decide that they can't have any children, so they decide to take one of the babies, and John Goodman.
What was his name? Nathan Jr.?
Nathan Jr. Nathan Jr.
Nathan
right.
Jr.
Nathan Jr. So anyway, this guy tells me that there's a reference to my character and UFOs in the movie, and I didn't even remember. I mean, I hadn't seen it since the 80s, and I went back to look, and it was like, oh my goodness, when one of the babies is kidnapped, when Nathan Jr. is kidnapped, there's a press conference at our home afterwards in front of our home, and one of the reporters sticks a microphone in my husband's face and Nathan Sr., and says, we heard there's a rumor that your son was abducted by UFOs. Is there any truth to that? And my husband says, please, son, please don't print that. If his mama reads it, she'll lose all hope, which is a lot different than what I feel. But the other ironic thing is that the cinematographer, who I worked intimately with on a couple of scenes, ended up to do the movie. It was one of his first movies. Ended up to do Big with Tom Hanks and When Harry Met Sally with Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal and a whole host of other things, and ended up doing the Men in Black series. Now, if you can't tell me that's a coincidence,
yeah, that's pretty trippy.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it's
anyway,
pretty trippy.
one of the things that one of the times that really turned my life in a new direction, and I asked for guidance, was besides the Pheonix Lights, was I was actually understudying Barbara Eden and Sound of Music at the time. We were touring, and I was called by Leon Uris, who wrote the book Exodus. You remember that book? And it was a giant hit book, and then they did the movie with Selminio and Paul Newman, and that was a giant hit. And now they were doing the musical. And don't ask me how he found out, but he found out about me somehow and called me to audition in New York for the part of Karen, the ingenue, which was like, oh my goodness. I mean, here he has a hit book and a hit movie. And I go to audition. Well, it happened to be 1 month before I started medical school, okay? And in the early 70s, I started medical school in 1970. There was only a handful of women in a class of 120. So, when I was auditioning and it got down to two of us, I had to do some major soul searching. And the answer that came to me was that I had to go to medical school, and one day I would know why. And that was what came to me. And it was a very difficult decision, let me tell you. But, I told Leon Uris I couldn't do it. I was starting medical school. He wasn't too happy about that. But the show went on the road. You know how they used to do that on the road in Boston, whatever. They open up. Then it opened in New York. It closed in 3 weeks. I would have been dead meat. No medical school would have ever accepted me again. So that was only one of many, many times where I did my soul searching and I asked for an answer and I got one and I trusted it. And so, as far as these beings, I don't know who they are, but I have felt that they have been with me since I was a child. And, I think that everybody can have a connection, and I'm going to be talking about that too, a contact in the desert in my workshop, how to connect to these other beings. But I know time is of the essence, and I wanted to get to one other thing if I could. Jimmy.
Sure. Before I let you do that, I want to ask you. So you said that you had a little communication when you were doing the shots with the 35 millimeters, right? Did you feel like they were the same beings that you connected with when you were 8 years old?
I didn't really think about that at the time, but I'm going to tell you what happened, and this is really important, and this is part of the whole story, and why I'm sharing it now, because I think we're finally ready to hear it. I'm almost ready to hear it. But anyway, a year after the mass sighting, we had another sighting that was spectacular, and I put the video in the documentary. I mean, this was I had alerted because I saw the lights again through a thick fog. Okay, and I wasn't sure. I met with the University of Arizona. And that's another thing. I've had my 35 millimeter data, analyzed by university, by military, optical scientists, physicists, and across the board. They don't have an answer. They're true unknowns. But after this one sighting happened, and I had alerted people, and we had 4 of us were north, south, east, and west to see a 20-minute array of straight lines, 40 miles wide, mirror images. The final thing is a giant pyramid of 3 lights. I mean, it was just spectacular. Actually, Linda Moulton Howe, who I had met with in Philadelphia, where I'm originally from, and I had asked her to meet with me, and very few people knew who I was and knew who had the picture. They used to call that person, Dr. X from Village Labs. But anyway,
right.
She had recommended that I get in touch with Dr. Bruce Maccabee, Navy optical physicist, very well respected. And here I had an opportunity. I had 4 videos that I asked him to take a look at. And I said, by the way, I have the first and the last picture of a closed sighting that I'm going to, stick in, which I stuck in at the last minute as an afterthought. Would you mind taking a look at them and tell me what they are? And about 2-3 weeks later, he calls me up. He said, you told me that closed sighting in 95 was like 2-3 minutes. I said, right. He said, will your husband confirm that? And I had to tell you, I was outside and he was inside, and he's not one to get rattled by anything. He was on several state and medical boards and so forth. He wouldn't talk about it. Whereas I thought, that's why each person is different. We all come from a different background, from a different upbringing, from a different belief system and worldview. Some people can't deal with this topic. Some people don't want to. That's okay. That's okay. Everyone in their own time. The data is there, though, now, if people want to look at it. But anyway, he would never talk about it. He got agitated when I brought it up. And to me, it was like so wondrous and unbelievable. So I told him that. He won't talk about it. He said, you've got to sit him down and corroborate, which I did finally. This was 3 years later. And I said, just tell me how long you thought it was. He said, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 minutes tops. I said, fine. And I went back to Dr. Maccabee, and he said, that's impossible. I said, what do you mean? And anybody that's by a computer that can look at the pictures will see what I'm talking about. The first and the last picture.
Yes.
He said, first of all, he was the first one to notice, because I thought it was just part of the landscape, that the same exact phenomena was in the background, in the same spot. When I was taking the close pictures and so focused on the close orbs, they were disappearing in the back as well. So we surmised that there might have been 6 to begin with, and as the orbs close by were, imploding and disappearing, those were disappearing at a distance as well. But that wasn't the big thing for him. He said, look at the skyline. I said, okay. And I would never notice this in a zillion years. He said, there are many groups of lights, not just individual lights, but groups of lights on in the first picture that are out in the last picture. He said, that does not happen in 2 to 3 minutes. He said, I want you to do an experiment. He said, stand outside on the balcony, approximately at the same spot you were standing in 95, and take the skyline pictures once every hour, and then the next night every half hour, and I actually did it another night every 15 minutes to see when the lights go out. Now, my husband called me. One wall of our bedroom is a window. I'm actually looking out that window right now. And so if anything pops up out there, we get to see it. And he was standing at the window at the time when I was taking a bath, and he called me out of the bath. And I usually take a bath when we're home between 7 and 8 o'clock. So let's be conservative and say it started at 8 o'clock. The groups of lights start going out at 9 o'clock. The last picture is indicative of 10:30, 11 o'clock. Now, he says to me, can I present this case at the upcoming 1999 MUFON symposium in Washington, D.C.? I said, hey, Dr. Maccabee, this is your baby. I would have never noticed this data. You've done it very meticulous. If you want to read the 23-page report, it's on the website. And I said, just don't mention my name. I want to remain anonymous. And he honored that, as did the handful of people that knew who I was, which I'm very grateful to this day. But he presented it as the first, and as far as I know, the only analyzed and authenticated 35-millimeter photographic evidence of missing time.
Interesting.
Now, the reason I'm sharing it now is because, number one, if it can help, okay? I don't believe in coincidence anymore. I had this data for some reason. Number one, time, linear time. Our concept of time is primitive. Past, present, and future is not what time really is. And certainly I experienced that when I went out on the balcony. And many people experience that when they have an unexplained phenomena experience, okay? Mm-hmm. It's timeless, number one. Number two, quantum physics and quantum mechanics is now talking about string theory and bubble theory, that there could be 10 or 11 different dimensions along with ours. Mm-hmm. Well, if there's other times and spaces along with ours, then why is it such a leap to think that there could be other intelligent beings in those other times and spaces that we get glimpses of if we're open to them or invited?
It's not a leap. It's not a leap at all. Are you with us?
I'm with you. That's why I'm sharing. That's why I'm sharing the data, because hopefully it'll open the door a little bit. And I just hope science will finally come on board, and they're starting. I mean, we're still a little primitive in our own science, but we talked, earlier about other dimensions, and it makes sense.
Did you see Interstellar?
I saw parts of it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. When you see it, the next time I see you, which will be at Contact in the Desert.
Okay, I'll make sure I see it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I've only done the same thing that you've done. I've seen parts. I've accumulated it. It finally comes out on DVD next week. I can't wait.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
okay.
I missed it. I missed it in the theater. Yes, we did. We were too busy doing the show, and it blew past us. But I have watched a bunch of different sequences and watched all of the analysis that I can about it because, well, first off, I'm fascinated with the subject, but it's pretty interesting, their take on time travel. And I don't want it, for anybody that hasn't seen the movie, I don't want to give it away. I haven't seen the whole movie yet. I've seen enough of it now. I don't know. I guess I'm going to watch the whole thing just because. But I've watched pieces of it. So you and I will talk about that at Contact in the Desert. We're up against another break. When we come back, we'll take a quick 2-minute break. When we come back, you want to take a couple of phone calls and we'll wrap this up?
That sounds good.
All righty. Dr. Lynne Kitei is with us tonight. Let's take a quick break, our last one, and then we'll take some phone calls when we come back. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Dr. Lynne Kitei, your phone calls when we come back. Stay with us.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Attention, all Fadernauts. Studio Dome has a special deal on their SD1 Bluetooth speaker. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on their banner, enter the promo code Jimmy, and you get $40 off and free shipping on the SD1. It's voice activated, comes with a USB antenna, cables, and a carry bag. Never listen to your phone, tablet, or laptop speakers ever again. It's the only way to listen to Fade to Black. That's jimmychurchradio.com, Studio Dome banner, promo code Jimmy. Go Beckley Teppy.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. May arrives soon, and with it comes another Contact in the Desert. So join me in Joshua Tree, California, for the 3rd annual Contact in the Desert Conference being held May 29th through the 31st. 2015 brings another awesome lineup of speakers, including publisher of Legendary Times, Giorgio Tsoukalos, New York Times bestselling author David Wilcock, journalist and conspiracy expert Jim Mars, former head of UFO Project for the MOD Nick Pope, investigative reporter Linda Moulton Howe, author and contactee Travis Walton, UFO historian Richard Dolan, and many more. You don't want to miss this. Fade to Black and KGRA will be there broadcasting live May 29th. Just visit contactinthedesert.com for tickets and information. That's contactinthedesert.com.
This is KJCR at jimmychurchradio.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Dr. Lynne Kitei is with us. Phone lines are open. 323-825-5045. 323-825-5045. You can also Skype in Fade to Black 14. Always, when I open up the phone lines, the first caller in is Dino. Dino, say hi to Dr. Lynne Kitei. How are you tonight?
Hi, Jimmy. Hi, Dr. Lynne Kitei. How are you?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
Well, I'm telling you, listening to all this, I heard you when you were on the show last year, and all I can say is, I don't know why we have so many MDs, you, Dr. Greer, that have all these great experiences. I should have gone to medical school.
That was funny. That was good.
But I wanted to ask, though, seriously, that if I had seen, I wish I had seen something like this, and you've approached it from several angles, you know. But what do you think it was? You saw it on a couple of nights, from what I understand. Do you think it was one huge, large craft that was not from Earth, or do you think it was several? I mean, everybody seems to have seen something different. What was their cloaking device not working that night, or what, are we meant to see it?
Well, firstly, you know, whatever it was, okay, and I think it was multiple things. And if you go on the GAP page, GAP, I talked about it earlier, and I didn't mention the name, Geospatial Animation Project, beautifully illustrated craft by Larry Lowe. It is fascinating because those crafts are very different. As I mentioned, whether it was one craft that could morph, or the perspective from where somebody was standing, or a parade, which is what the investigators finally concluded because there were so many things happening at the same time. But take a look at those crafts, because we're talking, I mean, there's one craft that really blew me away. In fact, it's on the latest edition of the documentary, Pheonix Light's Top Secret, is exactly what I found video of. Are you ready for this? I mean, we know of the flap in the late 80s and the early 90s in Belgium and UK that were similar. But there was a sighting 1 month before ours, on February 19th in St. Petersburg, Russia. And not only did many people see it, and a few of them took video, but the same thing happened with the air traffic controllers. These things were hovering over the tarmac at the airport. And one of the videos, each light was 3 lights. And when I saw the final product of the Geospatial Animation Project and the 8 or 9 different craft that were hovering and people saw statewide, it blew me away because it was exactly like the video, okay? So, to answer that, I really feel at this point, number one, whoever did this wanted to be seen, okay? Not only did they want to be seen, because, I mean, everybody, just like in 1991 in Mexico, thousands of people were looking skyward at the eclipse. That's why I will tell people to keep looking up, especially when there's something astrologically happening, because in 1991, the same thing happened. People were looking up, and thousands of people saw UFOs all over the place. On March 13th, the Hale-Bopp comet was very clear in the northwest sky. So if somebody's out there wanting to get our attention, boy, that was a perfect night because people were outside looking up at the sky. So at any rate, take a look at that page because the one craft actually split in 2 and then shot up straight in the air. I mean, just amazing technology. So
it sounds like it, Lynn. And the thing that really upsets me and really makes me mad when we have an opportunity like this, whether it's Rendlesham Forest or going back to Roswell or some of the other sightings, the kids in South Africa that saw the thing, is that the governor made a joke about it, and then years after he got out of office, he came and said, "Oh no, I was with a group of people and I saw it too." And that just really ticked me because it was an opportunity for someone who wasn't a whack job, who was in government, to say, "Yeah, I saw it too," and he didn't do it.
Well, at the time, I have to say, and we talked about this, there was so much ridicule. I mean, Frances Barwood it really was plastered to the wall. If you see some of the jokes that were made about her and the snickering and anyone that came forward, I was so happy that I stayed anonymous for 7 years doing my own homework. But really, at the time in '97, not only was there so much ridicule and ostracizing, and it's just in the past few years that we've really come around with all the information getting out there with the Hubble and the Kepler, and that there's other Earth-like planets. I mean, little by little, they're feeding us some information to get us ready, I think. But as far as the Pheonix Lights go, not only did they want to get our attention, okay, They want to let us know that we're not alone. And again, I'm going back to each individual that was touched at such a deep level and changed forever. I mean, there's people that went into the environmental movement, went into the peace movement, even changed their eating habits. Some people went vegetarian. I mean, just a much more profound awareness and appreciation of our Earth. I'm not kidding, of our planet, and that we're not alone. Okay, so whoever did this really was not only waking us up to their presence in a very gentle, non-threatening way. I should mention this too. In 18 years, there has not been not one report of harm, threat, or abduction associated with the Pheonix Lights phenomena. Can't speak for other stuff, but I can speak for the Pheonix Lights phenomena, and that in itself is really telling. And what it did
Lynn, can I ask you? Excuse me. Can I ask you what is next for this? You're going to Contact in the Desert. You're speaking about this a lot. You have a website. What is next? Where are you going to go with this? And what else?
Okay, good question. I'm glad
to offer.
Thank you for the call, Dino. Thank you for the call.
All right.
Now, first of all, now that the book, The Pheonix Lights, A Skeptic's Discovery That We Are Not Alone, and our documentary, which it keeps evolving, we keep adding things, and we have incredible people in it, and the bonus features are just mind-boggling. There were coincidences I can talk about too, but now I'm working on a curriculum. That is my passion, is youth education, and I'm working on an amazing curriculum, totally groundbreaking. There is nothing in our classroom, and I've been wanting to do this for years. And the last couple of years, we've actually been working on a pilot program. It's called Out of the Box, The Adventures of Sue, F.O., Field Observer, and Hugh, H-U-G-H, UFO, and he's a little alien. And I have a wonderful team that I'm working with. Kate, who's the teacher in one of the schools here with the pilot program. Mark Makis, who's with Disney, and he's an illustrator, an unbelievable talent that's gotten together a workbook. It's all based on the Pheonix Lights mass sighting, but we go off in so many directions with the history, crop circles, the math, the geometry, as well as the art, talking about the, what if we can't live on Earth anymore? What would we do? And separating the class into two with space station and underwater station, and not only learning the science, but also delegating authority and being able to cooperate with each other, and also asking questions, critical thinking. What if we're not alone? How would that change our world? And what would we tell them about us? And really get kids thinking. And they thirst for this knowledge. In fact, Jimmy, this is what prompted me to do the documentary, because I was working at the Arizona Heart Institute like 7 to 7 and doing programs like this into the night and doing Barnes & Noble and border tours when I came out with the book in 2004, and I was approached by filmmakers. And as much as I wanted to do a film and really show people and have the witnesses tell their own stories and share their own experiences, I didn't have time. And one of the filmmakers, Steve Lance, really talented guy, young guy who was very knowledgeable about the subject. Dad lives here. He's a physician as well. And in May, he came and said, I'm coming in June and we're starting to film. I said, whoa. I said, first of all, I stayed anonymous for 7 years. I don't know if other people will do this. I mean, it was very controversial at the time. And I said, first of all, I have to get in touch and see if anybody will do it, especially professors. They could lose their grants. And I went, every single person I went to, and except one who came on later, wholeheartedly said they would do it. And I thought, well, that's a little bit of a sign. And then some parents that had seen me at Barnes & Noble invited me to their school, a middle school here, which I was blown away that they would even let me in the door talking about the subject. Right. And I have to tell you, I walked in. There were 200 middle school students and parents and teachers. You could hear a pin drop. They were on the edge of their chairs. They couldn't get enough. And I asked them, I said, does anybody believe we're alone in the universe? Not one hand went up. I said, does anybody believe that we're not alone in the universe? Every hand went up. Right. They want to know about this stuff. They thirst for this knowledge. And it was the first time also, Jimmy, that I realized that there is nothing, and I mean zip, nothing in our history books about this topic. So I've been wanting to do this. We are well underway. Very, very excited. Stay tuned. Hopefully by the end of the summer we'll be able to present it out there, and I'll keep you posted. But it's really going to be something, and it's time. It's time.
I wanted to ask you, and I don't think I ever have, do you know about the 1948 crash and recovery of the saucer right there in Cave Creek, right behind your house?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. I do.
What do you know, nobody talks about that case. When I had first read about it, I think it was maybe Above Top Secret, Timothy Good's book. I'd read about it back in the 90s. And as you know, I used to go out to Pheonix at least every 2 weeks, and I did that for years on business.
Really? For why?
Yeah, music business. And so, but one of my friends lived right there at 38th Place and Lincoln Road on the side of Camelback Mountain. You know, that very nice neighborhood. I think that's kind of where you live. And lived right there. And I bring the book with me. And this guy's a famous rock star. You know, I don't want to get into that. But I asked him, I said, look, man, do you know where this is? And I said, it's Paradise Valley. You know, well, we're here. This is Paradise Valley. I said, okay, well, you know, Cave Creek. Yeah, I know where that is. And we're looking at it in the book. And he reads, and he's like, no way, really? That's right over here. So we go and we jump in the car and we drive up, you know, whatever, Scottsdale Road or whatever, and head up into Paradise Valley. You know the area. And we drive right to where this was. And it's now like a shopping center, right? It's like totally paved over. And they talk about it in the book. Again, you don't. Do you
remember the details? Because I don't.
Well, the saucer crashed. Now this is from my brain. Okay, I should almost actually pull it up and check it out. But this is what I recall. The saucer crashed. Back then, it was just desert out there. You know, maybe one main road. But the saucer crashed. It was retrieved. The Air Force went out, blocked everything off. There were plenty of witnesses, and I think it was on private property. But Air Force goes out, retrieves it. There was some photography that was done. There was witnesses thrown on a flatbed and removed. And then a few weeks later, they annexed the land. Right, they take the land and then they go in with bulldozers and take all the dirt out, replace the dirt, and then paved over the entire area. It was acreage, and paved over it. And that was 1948. It was right after Roswell, and it's one of those cases that just isn't talked about. If you go, all of you guys right now in Twitter and that are listening to the show. All you have to do, again, this is my brain, but I think we're good on this. 1948, Paradise Valley, Arizona UFO. And
Cave Creek.
Yeah, Cave Creek. Yeah, it was right there.
Well, they've been, it's not an Arizona thing. People say, why in Arizona? It's happening worldwide, of course, but there are so many stories here. That's why the Navajo Rangers are actually, studying these things and investigating. There is so much going on throughout Arizona, that I'm hearing about constantly over the Superstition Mountains. They're seeing these rod-shaped craft that have either orbs or other little craft coming out of them, as they are seeing them in the Navajo Nation as well. In fact, if you go to the photo page on the Phoenix Lights Network website and you go down to the bottom, there's 2 sunset pictures. And I collect sunsets, as I mentioned earlier, and I took 5 rolls of film in 2000. And when I got them back after the holidays, I started looking through the pictures, and I noticed on two separate rolls, a month apart, there is a rod-shaped thing, like a giant cigar-shaped thing. This has all been analyzed in the same exact spot in both pictures that I did not see when I was looking at the sky at the sunset. And one of them is a gorgeous sunset. I think I have it on my Phoenix Lights Network Facebook page, but it's there. It's there in the negative. That's a 35 millimeter is golden. I have to tell people out there, forget the digital because when you start, don't forget it, but when you start to analyze, the pixels break up. The 35 millimeter, when it's in the negative, it cannot be denied. It cannot be fudged, and it cannot be faked, and it's there. Okay, but at any rate, these rod-shaped, cigar-shaped, craft are worldwide, and things are happening, throughout Arizona to this day, and that's why, even the Estrellas were named the Estrellas, because they were seeing these same phenomena centuries ago. So, yeah, I hear you. That's very interesting. And by the way, a very, very popular, I can say his name because I did his radio program and he admitted it, Alice Cooper. I don't know if that's the same one you're talking about.
No, Alice is his neighbor, though, my friend.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
everybody.
He saw the Pheonix Light.
It's funny. Stevie Nicks, Alice Cooper, and the guy that I'm talking about right now, they all live right there.
Right. They're like in the Arcata area, whatever. But anyway, Alice Cooper did see the Pheonix Lights. He came up to me at one of our anniversary showings at the Scottsdale Hark and Shay and, asked me to come on his radio program and stuff. And he saw it. I mean, he actually saw it. So there's many people out there that see things, I'm sure, that are afraid to talk about it. And, the more we talk about it and the more we get it out there, the easier it is to talk about it. And I hope more and more people come forward and share because it really makes it more real for everybody. And social media, by the way, has been incredible, hasn't it?
Oh, it's phenomenal.
It really has.
There's one comment I did want to make, though. There's something strange. I used to drive between Phoenix and Tucson. When I was in Phoenix, and I had business in Tucson, so I'd always I'd drive to Tucson during the day, and I'd drive back at night, 10 o'clock at night, back to Phoenix. Mm-hmm. And that drive, it's only an hour drive, but you're out in the middle of the desert, and I'm serious.
Yeah, you're out there.
I never took notes or anything, but there wasn't a night that I didn't drive back that something strange. I didn't see something. There was something phenomenal, and there was always something. Every single night. What is it like Joshua Tree and Phoenix? There's similarities there. Those desert spots are magical places. How do you explain that? You can tell. Well, you can tell when you're in Phoenix. You can tell there's something going on.
Well, not only Phoenix, but have you been to Sedona?
Oh yeah, same thing. Flagstaff. Forget about it.
Yeah, I mean if anybody has a chance to go to Sedona, talk about magical. I mean, besides the mountains being red, and it's just the most gorgeous place you've ever seen. It's very unusual. They talk about the vortexes and so forth up there. They see things up there all the time, and even here, what's getting on the scientific end of it, talking about the energies that are here, particularly around the valley in the mountains, the different electromagnetic properties that the mountains have, maybe something that attracts these phenomena. That has definitely been talked about here. So it just needs further study, and maybe one day we'll find out.
So what is your workshop going to be about? Let's do your talk first before we wrap up. Your presentation is going to be on the Pheonix Light.
The Pheonix, it'll actually be how the story unfolded through the media. And again, what I'm going to be showing people isn't out there anymore. I took it right off the TV, and in those days they didn't keep copies, and so it's fascinating to see how the media take on this. And I have to tell you too, number one, when I came forward in 2004. Many of the people that I had worked with in the early 80s at NBC here were now the head of news at, the news director at Fox and the head of production at CBS and, at ABC. And when they learned that I was Dr. X, it was like, you're Dr. X? Well, come on over. And, they knew I would not come forward. Number one, if I didn't do my homework, and number two, if I didn't think it was important to share. And they have been so incredible. I mean, it really is a model. And talk about a positive transformation. Here in Arizona, it is a model for what should happen everywhere. I mean, they take these reports seriously, and some of them can be explained. I mean, sometimes people are seeing blimps, and sometimes people are seeing weather balloons, and sometimes people are seeing flares, but they're taking them seriously. There's no more snickering, there's no more laughing, there's no more joking. It's a serious subject that they really, really embrace, and boy, do they do publicity around the anniversary. I mean, they really help with the sellout crowd because when people know about it, they come. And I am forever grateful, and it's really something we'll talk about as far as showing what they show. And also, there was one journalist here who actually saw it. It went right over him, and he wanted to get to the bottom of it, and he did some incredible reports that I'll also be showing, and also show how the national and international media take on this, because it's just very interesting how the story unfolded through the media to this day. And my workshop is going to get more into how these phenomena, particularly the Pheonix lights and other unexplained phenomena that are similar, affect people at a very, very deep level. And we're going to get more into what an up is, the similarity between unexplained phenomena, the connection between near-death experience, out-of-body experience, unexplained aerial phenomena that have mystical light associated with the experience, as well as the after effect, and also how you can connect with these other beings, with these other worldly beings. There is a formula, and I certainly have learned what that is, and I'm going to share it with my workshop. So I hope people will come and visit and learn. Not trying to convince anybody, just sharing the data, and people can decide for themselves.
That's what's so great about Contact in the Desert, isn't it? It's everybody there is just there to learn. And it was just phenomenal last year, just to walk around and, you have thousands of people that are just so focused and so open. And one of the things about you last year at Contact, when I went up, you're right there, man. You're right there. Anybody can come up and talk to you, and you're hanging out all day long. And it's just a great experience to see you handle it like that. I thought that was awesome.
Oh, well, I really appreciate that. But that's, I have surrendered. I'm into the log haul, and I'm just going with the flow, and I love meeting the people. I really do. And I so appreciate when people actually look at the data. Because then, if I can be a credible voice so people actually look at it and can gain some knowledge and grow from it, then I've done my job. And I love when people do come up to me, and I'll have a table there, my vendor table or whatever it is, outside by the big what is it called? The big theater.
Dome.
Yeah, whatever.
The dome.
Please, people, seek me out. I love to talk to people. I love to hear stories. It's really, that's part of this whole thing, is really being open and non-judgmental, and just being honest and letting the data out there and the information out there, because when people know that there's other people that have experienced the same thing they have, it makes it so much easier for them, and it is healing. It is healing. It's cathartic, and it's important. And I'm so glad that I can be there to not only share the data, but also be there, as a voice for this, to get it out in the open in a credible way, and to be there for people who want to share. So I hope they will.
Thank you so much, Lynn. It's great to have you on with us again, and you'll be on with us May 29th. We'll get you back on with us. We'll be broadcasting, the big dome right in front.
Cool.
We're broadcasting from the Nexus room right behind it. You remember that spot? So that's where.
Yes, that'll be excellent. And thank you, Jimmy, for doing what you're doing, because you are a voice too, a big voice that gets this information out there, and that's how people learn and grow. So, and what it's all about. So, thank you for having me and getting the Pheonix Lights information out there, and keep looking up.
Thank you so much, Lynn.
Talk to you soon.
You got it. Lynne Kitei, everybody. Thank you so much, Lynn. What a great show tonight. There was some comments about the near-death experience stuff. And isn't it strange? Don't you find it strange that with all of the guests over the last year and a half, it's going on 2 years now for this show, the connection of everything. I've said it so much. When you think about it, anything that is discussed in the paranormal, whether it's ghosts or spirits or ET, when we look at all of those different things, that isn't it strange how they could all be connected? If one thing, just one. Whether it is any unexplained phenomena up, as she has defined it now. I kind of like that, up and up. If one thing, then it's all good. And for me, it's deja vu. If deja vu, which I experience, and I experience it all the time, if deja vu is real, then, which it is, then all of this that we can't explain is connected and is real. It's the one thing that connects us all. It's so strange, but it's right there. If one thing, which for me is deja vu. I've had my other experiences. I've had those experiences. But if deja vu is real, which it is, then all of this unexplained stuff that we can't quite put our finger on is real and is connected. And we honestly need to get to the bottom of it. With somebody like Lynne Kitei, who before the Pheonix lights didn't have these experiences, didn't have that, and suddenly started to put the dots together. And she went diligently and went forward and contacted not only Luke Air Force Base and the National Guard and Fife Symington and the mayor of Pheonix and the city council. She raised all of this awareness and brought it up through the media. And if she didn't have her foot on the gas, where would we be now with the Pheonix lights? The Pheonix lights was witnessed by everybody. Unfortunately, I was there, and I didn't see it. I can't believe I'm so upset that I was there that night in Pheonix. I was there. I was there that week. And I didn't see it, but thousands and thousands of people did, including the governor. This is not something that happened and was witnessed by one person, which is still legitimate. But the Pheonix lights are different. Dino brought up, and we're at the end of the show, and I've got to run. Dino brought up something. He said, and I think Dino misunderstood, that there were different craft. No, there was the V-shaped craft that went from Pheonix all the way down across the state, south, across Tucson, and further. That was videotaped. And that's what Fife had seen himself. That was his sighting. And that's a very consistent sighting going across all of suburbia, out of Pheonix, south across the state. It was witnessed by thousands of people. And Lynne Kitei has been waving that flag for a long time, and I support her completely. Thank you so much, Lynn. Great show tonight. Tomorrow night, Courtney Brown will be with us. He's got his new presentation on Sidonia and the Face on Mars. I'm very excited about this. Always great when we have Courtney on with us. Thank you, Lynne Kitei. Again, always great when you're on the show with us. Thank you, Lynn. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm and Mark D. Kovar. LJ3, Renee, Mark Dunbar, and Jonas. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Webmaster is Method of Signaling. Music is this guy right here, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Go get you some. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Thank you to KGRA The Planet. Tomorrow night, Courtney Brown. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Everybody be safe. See ya.